and yet he totally shook the one guy everyone thought was a shoo-in to become a holy knight. See, the thing is, human civilization was wiped out ages ago, and he was seen as some low-tier species with no animal power. Turns out, 100 million years back, Earth got so jacked up from pollution that it spawned these mutant freaks called the Fallen. Their regeneration was so insane that not even a nuke could put them down for good. So, humans had to do a bunch of sketchy experiments on living people to find a way to fight back. They finally found the answer, but it was way too late. By then, pretty much no one was left alive. With a voice as cold as ice, he says, "Finally found you." And in a flash, Jin just lets himself drop from the sky. Scene change to the middle of nowhere. Some kid is running for his life, letting out a massive scream. While running, he's gasping for air and yelling, "Anyone there? Is anyone else alive?" In this messed up situation, all the kid can do is break down and cry. Just then, a huge, deformed monster appears right in front of him. And it wasn't just one or two. The kid was completely surrounded. They start creeping closer and closer, and he is absolutely terrified. "Save me!" the kid screams in total desperation. "Can anyone hear me? Anyone at all, please? You gotta help me. The ones who burned this world to ashes. Please make them pay." Right at that moment, a few beams of light suddenly pierce the sky. The next second, Jin shows up. With his insane power, he easily wastes one of the monsters, leaving the kid totally stunned and clueless. While the kid is still trying to figure out what the heck is going on, Jin speaks up. "Seriously, my bad for being so late." Seeing the insane energy rolling off him, the kid got curious. Who even are you?" Jin, with his piercing turquoise eyes, just stays silent. This makes the kid start shaking, but a broken smile spreads across his face as he chokes out, "Oh, right, we finally did it, didn't we? We finally took our world back?" His voice echoes in the dead silence, faint like a breeze on the water. Jin's reply is totally cold. "Yeah, that's right, so you can rest easy now." The kid manages a weak smile, his eyes totally vacant. "Thanks, man, thank you." And just like that, he was gone, right in front of Jin. A soft sound echoes right after. Seeing this, Jin's face instantly darkens, his brows furrowing in complete frustration. Just then, a voice cuts through the silence. "Jin, you're a little too slow." As soon as he sees the person, Jin coldly turns his head and calls out, "Kagura." Kagura adjusts his glasses and replies, "He was probably the last survivor in this area. Just give it up." "Jin, you need to get a grip on this messed up reality." Hearing Kagura's words, Jin just hangs his head, saying nothing. Kagura says it again, dead serious. "The human race is officially extinct. They were born from all the non-stop pollution, those disgusting mutant freaks, and the Fallen. They have an insane healing ability. Not even our nukes could wipe them out. But we never even thought about giving up. We kept running experiments on human bodies. We finally found a tool to fight back, but now there's no one left for us to save." Right? As he's ranting, Kagura lets out a frustrated sigh. He watches the last person on Earth fade away and says, "We were seriously way too late." Jin tries to argue back. There's still something worth protecting. Hearing this, Kagura is super skeptical. "You really think there are still survivors out there?" Jin zips past him like the wind, quietly answering, "Not exactly." With a smirk, Jin says confidently, "It's in the future. Those nanomachines you worked so hard to create, they can also heal the environment. Can't they?" Kagura replies, "Yeah." Hearing that, Jin continues his breakdown. That nano-army doesn't just cancel out the Fallen's regen, it also kickstarts this planet's healing process. And then, someday, this planet will get back the beauty it's supposed to have. And right at that moment, a new civilization will definitely spring up, just like humanity once did. After Jin's speech, Kagura is in disbelief. "That sounds like some far-fetched fairy tale," Jin calmly explains. "That's good enough for me. Maybe just that one tiny sliver of hope is more than enough." In Jin's thoughts, the power I have now, it might be needed in the future. Believing in the word maybe, who knows, it might just be the key to saving the entire future. After staring at Jin in the experiment pod for a moment, Kagura turns and leaves with what little optimism he has left. Just passing that chance to the next generation is enough. At that moment, a voice echoes from nowhere. "Hibernation system initiated." No, while monsters are still scattered all over Earth, the system's voice just gets louder and louder. Year 20,000, 153, 769, 974, 1,384, 5,180, 8,492, 17,987. As the numbers climb, the Earth is slowly returning to its old self. Meanwhile, the monsters are losing their vitality day by day. The numbers just keep rising. 32,416, 56,428, 84,524. Just like that, the sun rose high. As life started to sprout and birds soared through the vast sky, the era of the monsters was finally fading away. 184,236, 246,578, 306,938, 562,487, 847,527. As the numbers went up, the earth slowly became lush again. Cute rabbits and calm horses grazed on the grass. It was a scene the earth hadn't witnessed in forever. Meanwhile, the numbers kept climbing. 384,235, 525,469, 7,550,192, 14,250,785, 25,402,437, 45,756,000, 249, 89, 1,500, 24,250. When the earth finally saw the sun again, with its clear blue beaches and white sand. But that's a story for, 100 million years from now. A system notification pinged. Access code confirmed. Commencing dehibernation sequence. The sound of desperate running echoed as sweat beaded on Hakama's face. Her whole crew was on the run from some messed-up red-eyed monster. With things getting seriously dicey, Denpao was lagging behind, crying and screaming, "Is he really in a dump like this?" But Hakama shot back with total certainty. He has to be. Sandy, totally freaking out, cut in. But if he's not, we're legit dead meat. Hearing that, Hakama just doubled down. He's here. I know it. As she spoke, she clutched the necklace around her neck. The next second, Hakama's eyes snapped open, dead serious as she declared, "Our guardian spirit is definitely in this place." With that, they bolted towards a beat-up temple door, frantically shoving their way inside. But as soon as they got in, they saw it was a dead end. Denpao's voice was filled with despair. "Dude, look, we're trapped." When she heard that, even Hakama's face went pale. She was too panicked to even speak. And right on cue, the giant, savage monster crashed in after them. Sandy was about to have a full-on meltdown. What are we gonna do now? While her two friends were curled up on the floor, basically giving up, Hakama clung to one last, tiny shred of hope. "Please, save us!" she screamed, tears streaming down her face. "Please, save us!" "Oh, guardian spirit." The moment the words left Hakama's lips, the stasis pod exploded into pieces. A voice instantly cut through the chaos. Request acknowledged. An insane amount of energy blasted right at the monster, blowing Hakama's crew away. With just one shot, the beast was totally obliterated. Hakama and her friends just stared, completely stunned by what just happened. Meanwhile, that strange voice echoed out again. "See? I told you your faith was worth something, right?" A figure slowly stepped out from the busted pod. It was none other than Jin. The guy had been taking a nap for 100 million years, waiting for this very moment. With a smirk on his face, Jin announced, "You gotta believe in the infinite possibilities of the future." He then popped open his storage container and kept talking. "Man, this storage box Kagura made is no joke. My clothes are still in mint condition." But when he glanced at the computer screen, he looked seriously confused. "Wait, for real? This is the world 100 million years later? Almost all the stored data is completely fried. It's actually insane that this shelter is even still standing. Guess it's all thanks to the nanites floating around in the air. That syringe on the table must be the nano-injector." Holding a small box, Jin thought to himself, "I really want to know what the hell happened to this planet. But the only thing Kagura left me was this stupid message cube." Oh, but before we get into that, Jin, realizing he was completely naked, turned to Hakama's crew and asked, "Yo, can you guys give me the rundown on the current situation?" "Whoa, my bad. So rude. Looks like I've been in my birthday suit for the last 100 million years." The more he talked, the more their jaws just dropped in disbelief. Jin casually slipped on his gloves, then added, "All right, that's better. Gotta look sharp, am I right?" In a flash, he was decked out in the exact same outfit from 100 million years ago. The door to the secret chamber, sealed for countless centuries, finally creaked open to greet the sunlight. Jin's crew slowly walked out, but the second he saw what was outside, Jin's face was a mask of pure shock. He stared at the lush green landscape, the massive mountains, and the long canal, unable to believe his eyes. So this is the world after 100 million freaking years? There's nothing left of the era I knew. Seeing him just standing there looking lost, Hakama tugged on his sleeve. Mr. Guardian Spirit, sir? This way, please. You should, stick with us." She pointed towards Denpao and the others up ahead. Jin's eyes followed her finger. He couldn't help but wonder, are those guys human? No way. Humanity was supposed to have gone extinct in the last era, wasn't it? Did they evolve to look human over all that time or something? The more he thought, the more he sized up Denpao and Sandy. This is seriously weird, isn't it? While Hakama stared at him with a confused look, Jin was still lost in his own head. It's gotta be the nanites. They must have been affected by them. The fact they still speak the same language from 100 million years ago is all the proof I need. Snapping out of it, Jin smiled and introduced himself. Oh, right. I haven't even told you who I am. The name's Jin Sito, but you can just call me Jin. Hakama quickly replied, Okay, I'm Hakama Finn. You can just call me Hakama. From a little ways off, Denpao and Sandy chimed in, I'm Denpao. And I'm Sandy. After hearing them out, Jin had to ask, So, what now? What do you guys need my help with? As she pulled him along, Hakama explained, We're almost there. We need you to take out the invader. That just made Jin even more curious. An invader? While they were talking, Sandy's face suddenly went ghost white. The kids started shaking, totally terrified, and screamed. When they saw their village engulfed in flames, both Sandy and Denpao were completely horrified. Our village! Sandy couldn't hold back anymore and just sprinted forward, screaming, Dad! Mom! Hakama, still behind him, yelled out, Wait, don't just run in there! But through it all, Jin just stood there, calmly taking everything in. This was all pretty much what he expected. The fences were made of wood, the houses too. Looks like their civilization hasn't really leveled up much. With that thought, Jin followed Hakama's crew deeper into the burning village. The second she saw the scene up ahead, Hakama's face drained of all color. In an instant, she screamed, Grandma! Her grandmother, who was also the village chief, was facing off against a massive monster. When she saw Hakama, her grandma yelled out in a panic, Hakama, what are you doing back here? You shouldn't be here right now. Jin looked at the monster, a cold expression on his face. So, that's the invader they were talking about? It just looks like another corrupted beast to me. Seriously? They call them invaders in this era? The village chief was totally helpless, begging them, get out of here now. But of course, Hakama wasn't having any of it. The kid unleashes her power, making it clear, I'm not going anywhere. I'm staying here to back you up. The second Jane saw that energy flowing through her, he was kinda surprised, thinking to himself, this reaction, guess it's time to check this out for real. The thought barely finished before he launched forward. With just one strike, Jane easily sent the monster flying. As he scooped up the village chief, he politely suggested, allow me to step in for a bit. In a flash, Hakama seized the opportunity to charge in. Seeing the kid attack the monster with her own power, Jane was seriously impressed. Awesome, keep it up. Hakama gathered energy in her palm, then blasted it straight at the monster. The power exploded, making it stumble back in pain. Only when she saw the monster's body on the ground could she be absolutely sure. Knew it. A regeneration inhibitor using microparticles. The monster's cells were breaking down with zero signs of recovery. Did that kid just control atmospheric nanoparticles? Normally, only people with a compatible body type can do that. But then a new question hit him. That fireball. Can just anyone in this era do that? Hearing his question, the village chief couldn't help but get suspicious. What do you mean, this era? Still, she answered Jane's question. No way. Only a select few have that ability. They're the ones who possess divine power. Counting me, there are only 4 people in this village who can. This caught Jane completely off guard. Divine power? A second later, he was lost in thought again. So, that's what they call the energy to control nanoparticles. Just then, Hakama suddenly ran towards the chief, her face full of worry. Grandma, where is everyone else in the village? The chief answered gently. I evacuated them all, but more importantly, why on earth did you two come back here? As she said that, her brow furrowed in despair. This village is finished. That monster from before was just a newborn. We're completely powerless against the real adults. It won't be long before a whole swarm of them floods this place and wipes us out completely. The moment her whining ended, another voice cut in. Grandma, could you stop being such a coward for a second? Seeing who was talking, the chief called out, Sax! Meanwhile, Sax just spoke calmly. The invaders are only at that level? Whatever. I'll tear every single one of them to shreds, the chief asked anxiously. You! Where did you take the villagers? Sax replied. I personally led them all to the shelter. Hakama slowly ran closer, calling out softly, Dad. Seeing his daughter, Hakama's dad smiled. Hakama, I was worried sick when I didn't see you in the shelter. Where in the world did you go? Hakama answered loud and clear. I went to the sealed door. Her answer made the village chief totally freak out. Hakama, you've got some nerve. How dare you enter that forbidden zone? Hakama got scared and stammered. Grandma told me once that our village's guardian god is sleeping behind that door, and if the village was ever in grave danger, he would definitely appear to save us. Hearing this, the chief's eyes immediately followed Hakama's gaze, landing curiously on Jane. This is the guy? He doesn't look anything like a god. And, cutting off her thoughts, Sax suddenly let out a mocking laugh. Ugh, give me a break. A low-class species like this is a guardian god? Quit joking around. Hearing that, Jane's brow furrowed in annoyance as he shot back, low-class species. Sandy tried to get close to Sax to explain, bro, dude, this guy really is our guardian god. The more Sax heard, the more confused he got. What? I was wondering where you went. Turns out you were with Hakama, the words barely out of his mouth. Sax walked right up to Jain and sized him up with a scornful tone. Look at his ears. He's just a lowlife, with no beast tribe features at all. He probably just wandered in by accident, and you guys made a huge mistake. Seeing Sax's analysis, Sandy quickly argued back, no, we're not mistaken. He defeated an invader with his own 2 hands. Sax laughed, all hyped up. You mean that little baby monster from earlier? Pfft, I could have ended that thing in 1 hit. As he said this, he shamelessly pointed his blade straight at Jain and threatened him coldly. Listen up. This is our village's internal business. We don't need some low-class outsider sticking his nose in it. Get my drift? Don't go messing around where you don't belong. As soon as he finished talking, Sax zipped past Jain like a gust of wind. Watching him leave, Hakama's dad couldn't help but ask, wait, Sax, where are you going? Sax shot back, isn't it obvious? I'm going to exterminate that giant monster at its root. You guys can stay here and tremble in fear. Sax said it with a look of pure contempt, which made the chief feel utterly helpless. She immediately shouted, you idiot! You could save your own life if you just ran away now. Through all this, Jain just stayed quiet and enjoyed the show. The village chief slowly approached him, her voice serious. All right, I don't know who you are, but thanks anyway for helping the kids. If you don't mind, please take these kids to the shelter with my son, would you? I have to chase after Sax and play this last card. Hearing this, Hakama cried out in worry. Grandma! Jain didn't even bother with the request, just shooting it down coldly, which made the chief freeze up. I refuse. I have my own pride. I can't just stand here and let him call me a low-class species. So just let him go get himself killed. With that firm tone, Jain just turned and left, leaving everyone else completely stunned and shocked. As sunset fell, the alpha monster appeared outside. With its massive body and tough scales, it slowly stomped forward, 1 step at a time. Right then, a figure suddenly appeared, his voice booming. Hey, you beast! With a spear in hand, Sax unleashed his power and declared with total confidence, I am the one who will carry the fate of this nation on my shoulders. A warrior destined to become a holy knight. You're just an invader at this level? I'll show you I'm strong enough to take you down without anyone's help. The moment he finished speaking, Sax, crackling with lightning power, charged straight at the alpha. Of course, this totally got the attention of its flunkies. Right away, they all postured up and swarmed Sax. With 1 clean swipe, he dropped them all, getting a massive ego boost. Sax yelled, you're in my way. This 1 slash is all it takes to end you. And just like that, he bolted straight for the big boss. Then he leaps up high, all dramatic like, eat this. In a flash, Sax carves a solid line right into the beast. Blood gushed out, which totally amped Sax up. The leader screamed its head off, but then, it just healed itself. Freaky. In this situation, Sax was seriously shook, thinking, wait, are those cuts just fixing themselves? While he was spacing out, the monster made its move. A desperate scream echoed out, but surprise, surprise, Sax was totally fine. He cracked an eye open, super confused, and there was Jin, using his powers to save Sax's sorry butt. Jin just mocks him. You done with your little sideshow act? Seeing him, Sax just stammers, you. He can't even finish before he has to dodge more of the small fry. Looking at them, Sax is like, are these things seriously still moving? Then Jin barely moves his hand, snaps his fingers, and boom, the little minions are all wiped out. Sax is just standing there, completely clueless. He's staring at the dead minion on the ground, thinking, what the heck is even going on? Right then, a voice calls out from a distance. Hey, get over here, now! It was Hakama's crew. As soon as they saw Sax, they started freaking out. But then they stopped, totally floored by what they were seeing. The chief's jaw was on the floor, like, what in the world am I even looking at? This is insane! How is he stopping something that huge with just 1 hand? Then Jin goes, okay, it's getting heavy. Everyone back up. At his warning, Sax is just confused. Huh? Jin doesn't explain, just yanks him out of the way. And just like he knew it would, the monster lunges right where they were. This just blows Sax's mind even more. After Jin saves him again, he finally asks, what the hell even are you? Jin just calmly answers, those things can heal instantly. Doesn't matter how much you hurt them. That's why you gotta use nanoparticles to shut down their healing. The more he heard, the more confused Sax got. Nano what? Jin gets up and explains, it's the stuff you guys call divine power. Your attack back there wasn't half bad. Too bad it was just a scratch, not deep enough to stop it from healing. Hearing this, Sax is completely lost, asking, "Are you for real the legendary guardian god?" Jin's all chill, "I'm no god, but there's one thing you need to get straight. You said this was this village's problem, right?" Sax stammers, agreeing. Yeah. So that's why I... Before he can finish, Jin cuts him off. "You're totally wrong. This is actually my mess to clean up." Just then, the monster is back to 100% and charges him. Jin dodges everything easily, totally analyzing its moves while thinking. First, I'll lock it down completely. As soon as he thinks it, he flicks his hand and blows up a small tentacle. In a flash, the effect spreads all over the monster. It makes the thing howl in pain. While Sax is just staring with his mouth wide open, Jin starts talking again. "These freaks? They're monsters born from our own stupidity. And that's why me, a survivor from the era of 100 million years ago, have to be the one to end this mess." As he says it, lightning crackles in his hand, ready to strike. This just made Sax even more skeptical. "I don't really get what you're saying, but can you actually pull this off?" Jin says it without a doubt. "Yeah, I can. Because I'm the product of a human civilization that went through its own long, bloody history of cruelty and tragedy. The last human left alive. Meanwhile, and right then, Jin unleashes this insane power at the monster, making the water go wild. The monster just opens its giant mouth and takes the hit head on. What happens next is nuts. In one shot, he completely obliterates the monster. Obviously, Hakama's crew is just freaking out. Everyone's just staring, totally shocked. Hakama's even got this huge, excited grin on his face. Jin's power is on another level, way beyond what anyone could imagine, blasting right through the planet's atmosphere. After that attack, the monster was toast. Sax is completely spooked, sweating buckets and looking totally panicked. But Jin is just chill, stating, "The ultimate scientific weapon." As he finishes, a slight smirk appears on his face. Then, not too far from where Jin is, there's a rustling sound. Some girl hiding in the bushes saw the whole thing and is completely mind-blown. "I was just supposed to be here to check out some new invasive species near this Kodama village, but then I saw whatever that was. Totally unbelievable. What even was that power? I bet not even the captain of the Holy Knights back in the Imperial capital could pull that off. This is a huge deal. I gotta get back to the capital, like now, to report all of this to the guildmaster." And with that thought, the girl with the magnifying glass gets this huge, excited grin on her face. When night falls, from a corner of the forest, a voice echoes, "Can you hear me? Jin, if you're hearing this, then I guess I'm already long gone." Kagura lets out a smug laugh. "I've always wanted to say a cheesy movie line like that. So, what's the future look like from where you're standing? The planet must have gotten a lot better, right? But yeah, there's still one massive headache." Jane just stared, like, "A headache?" Kagura didn't beat around the bush. "Fine, I'll just spit it out. Even with the world back on its feet, those freaks, the corrupted, they're not totally gone." Jane's eyes narrowed. "This sucks." That's when Kagura dropped the bomb. "I started noticing something was way off. About 1,000 years after you took your long nap, I had to do the same thing, on and off, just to keep an eye on how messed up the world was getting. With nature making a comeback, the number of those corrupted freaks dropped, like, a lot. The satellite zoomed in on this red blip, and bam! Some creepy-looking dude and a black horse on the move. This guy was radiating pure, I want to kill you vibes. He spotted the surveillance instantly, and the screen just went black. Kagura started freaking out. As the world changed, so did they. Evolved versions of the corrupted started popping up. I have no clue what they'll turn into, but whatever it is, it's gonna be a total disaster. All I could do back then was prep the new generation, give them a fighting chance against those monsters, even if it was a slim one, and leave a little power-up just for you." Hearing that, Jane, totally on autopilot, shoved a hand in his pocket. "Power?" He held up the syringe, totally skeptical. "You mean this thing?" Kagura's voice just kept on talking. "Just use it. The nanites will show you the ropes. They're designed to juice up a human body, and you're literally the only person who's a perfect match. This power is all yours." He injected it, and the thing in his hand just vanished. Kinda lame. But then poof, a dagger appeared in his palm. Jane started to get it. "So, this is like creating stuff by rearranging nanoparticles or whatever? Damn, this thing is actually useful," Kagura boasted. "And get this, I hid more power-ups just like it in secret labs all over the planet. I didn't dump them all in one spot, obviously. If those corrupted freaks got their hands on them, at least they wouldn't get the whole stash. And also, 'cause I wanted you to actually get out there and see the world for yourself." Kagura was straight up. "Look, I have no idea how bad these corrupted are gonna get, but hey, compared to the dump this world used to be, things are way better now." Nearby, some dude named Agus stopped his horse, hearing something weird. Was that someone running like their life depended on it? Yep, It was that brown-haired girl. The town was totally dead, super peaceful. A few candlelights were still on, probably some nerds reading. Kagura's voice was weirdly calm. So, for now, just try to enjoy this new world, okay? Then the screen glitched out, showing an old version of him. I can't be there with you to see it for myself. Jane was completely floored. Old Kagura's last words hung in the air. It's all on you now. Jane, the box snapped back to its original shape. Jane stood there, silent. I get it. Just then, two little figures ran up to him. Sir Guardian! Hakama looked super happy to see him. There you are, Denpao huffed, totally out of breath. Everyone's been looking for you, like everywhere. They both latched onto his arm, practically begging. Please, you gotta come back. The party can't start without the guest of honor. And then, Jane froze. He just noticed the thing hanging around Hakama's neck. Is that an access key to the research lab? Jane asked, letting them drag him along. Hakama, kid, where'd you get that necklace? Hakama touched the key, confused. This thing? She said. Totally honest. My family got it from some super important person. Like, ages ago. It's a good luck charm, passed down forever. The story goes, if the village is in deep trouble, this thing is supposed to lead our guardian here to save us. A small smile crept onto Jane's face. So that's it. No wonder the kid could just walk right in. Great. Looks like I owe these people big time. Back in the village, a bonfire was roaring and everyone was chilling. They all looked up when they heard the kids shouting, "This way, come on!" But everyone was thinking the same thing. Is that Times really Times, the legendary guardian? They were totally checking him out from head to toe. You gotta be kidding me, some guy sneered. No matter how you slice it, he just looks like some random loser. The dude kept running his mouth, not seeing Sack was about to blow a fuse. That scrawny dude. Really took down that monster? Before he could say more, Sack decked the loudmouth right in the face. What the hell would you know? You were too busy running away screaming. Sandy turned to Jane, all flustered. Are you okay, sir? I'm so sorry about that idiot, Sack started yelling. Our guardian, he's totally freaking amazing. Hakama couldn't believe it. Talk about a 180. Denpao breathed a huge sigh of relief. Thank God. It's like he's a totally different person from this afternoon. The village chief walked up, all smiles. Ah, so there you are. Jane gave a polite nod. Chief. She spoke carefully. Let me just say this one more time, for everyone here. We can't thank you enough. The guy next to her jumped in, super grateful. If you hadn't shown up when you did, this whole village would have been toast, wiped off the map. We really want to do something to repay you. Jane just kind of smirked. Don't sweat it, but the guy wasn't dropping it. So he just cut to the chase. Look, if you're serious, I don't need stuff. What I need is info. I want to know everything about what's going on in the world right now. The guy was stunned for a sec by the weird request. The state of the whole world? The chief then chimed in with an idea for Jane. If that's what you're after, you should probably head to the royal capital. That was a new one for Jane. The royal capital? The chief explained it's where the king hangs out. The guy who rules this kingdom of Cormosia. People from all over the place end up there. So yeah, they definitely know what's up with the rest of the world. We Kodama villagers go there all the time to trade our special silk from woodworms. The chief nodded, trying to hype him up. It's a long and dangerous road, for sure. But with your power, it'll be a cakewalk. But there was just one tiny problem for Jane. Yeah, but I have no idea how to get there. The chief just patted the little kid's head and assigned her. Then please let Hakama go with you as your guide. So, the kids got business in the capital anyway. Jin was kind of curious. Personal stuff? The village chief wasn't hiding anything, basically saying, you saw it yourself, didn't you? Guardian, this kid can use divine power. In the imperial capital, there's an academy that's all about training people to develop that holy power. We were thinking of giving up because of all the recent chaos, but I'm still hoping she can enroll like she was supposed to. Jin was kind of surprised. So, schools are still a thing in this era? Lame. Suddenly, another voice cut in. Hold up, everyone wait a sec. Sack puffed out his chest. I'm the one who's way more worthy of guiding the Guardian. The village chief looked totally baffled. What business do you even have in the imperial capital? Sack shot his nose in the air, all smug. I do too. I'm planning to join the ranks of the Holy Knights there. The village chief just heaved a sigh. You couldn't even pass the academy exam, so keep dreaming. Ouch. That hit a nerve, and Sack blew a fuse. Hey, old hag, what did you just say to me? Jin cut them off. Wait, don't you just need divine power to get in? Hakama immediately corrected him. You also have to pass a written test. Sack's a total idiot, so he failed. Amidst all the yelling, Jin finally got the picture. He thought about it seriously. Holy Knights, huh? Kinda sounds cool. I'm actually getting curious. Elsewhere, Agus had just received a report. A massive invading monster appeared in Kodama village. And it's already been defeated? The girl confirmed it like it was nothing. 100% correct. Sir, he had to ask again, just to be sure. Are you telling me the truth? The girl scrambled to confirm. I swear it's true. Sir, I was actually on my way back to report to the guildmaster. The news left him stunned for a moment. I figured you'd need a holy knight to take that thing down. That's why I came here on my own without waiting for guild orders. Never thought someone would have already cleaned up the mess. The girl was celebrating, not even noticing the foot stepping right near her. Seriously, I can't believe I ran into a holy knight in a remote place like this. What a random coincidence. A monster suddenly lunged at her, like it was nothing. Agus finished it off, leaving the girl completely freaked out. The fact that thing just showed up made him believe her story a little more. If what you're saying is true, then this is getting interesting. A flicker of excitement sparked in Agus. I'm actually getting pumped to meet this person myself. The sun slowly climbed higher, its gentle light spreading over Kodama village, bringing a fresh and peaceful morning. Jin stepped outside, taking in the warm scenery. He couldn't help himself. Man, what a killer morning. The air's so fresh and chill. The view of the green mountains and birds soaring high above made Jin think, I never thought I'd get to see something like this with my own eyes. He raised a hand to shield his eyes, a little bummed out. If only Kagura could see this with me. Just then, San walked up from behind, holding some clothes. Lord Guardian. The kid looked at Jin's totally naked body and held out the clothes. You should probably, put these on. The scene fast-forwarded to Jin's farewell. The village chief and a few others stood around Hakama. The chief looked at the little girl. Hakama, remember to do a good job as a guide, okay? The girl politely answered, I understand. Sak turned his head away, looking annoyed as he grumbled. And here I thought I'd get to learn a bunch of stuff from being around the Guardian. The chief sighed. First, you need to focus on your studies. He snapped back. Shut up, old woman. Jin, standing nearby, decided to chime in. You're Sak, right? Your moves yesterday weren't half bad. Sak's face suddenly turned red, surprised by the comment. I'll be waiting for you in the royal capital. Hearing that, the kid burst with excitement and yelled, I'll definitely be there. I'm gonna study my butt off. While the kid was freaking out in the background, Hakama's dad came up to shake Jin's hand. Guardian, please take care of Hakama for me. Then he bent down, putting a hand on his daughter's small shoulder. Hakama, just make sure you stay healthy, okay? The girl replied, Yes, father. After saying their goodbyes, he and Hakama waved. All right, we're heading out. The two of them, one big and one small, set off on their journey, following a stream. The sky was starting to turn a rosy pink. Jin stopped at a waterfall so Hakama could get a drink. Then they kept moving. Seeing the sun dip behind the mountains, the sky still glowing with a warm sunset, the little girl couldn't help but point ahead excitedly. By now, it was completely dark, and the two sat by a campfire to rest. Jin broke the silence. How much farther to the royal capital from here? Hakama, chewing on a piece of bread, replied, We've got about 4 more days of walking. He seemed pretty satisfied with that. Closer than I thought. The little girl hesitated. Lord Guardian? Jin replied. What's up? Hakama asked curiously. Why do you want to know so much about this world? He got all mysterious. That's a secret, she thought to herself. A secret again? The question sent Jin into a daze, thinking, the corrupted still haven't been wiped out. That's what Kagura had said. Thinking about the past made him even more sure. It really is true. The corrupted still exist in this era. He was lost in thought again. But usually, they can only multiply in heavily polluted environments. But that place. He stared at the blazing fire and knew it in his gut. Something is definitely changing. Seeing Jin so quiet made Hakama a little worried, and she broke his train of thought. Lord Guardian, you look super scary right now. Hearing that, he snapped out of it. My bad. I was just lost in thought. Jin stared at the little girl, thinking, at least there are still people living in this era. People who aren't controlled by the corrupted. Hakama tilted her head, confused by Jin's calculating gaze. First, I need to figure out how people these days deal with the corrupted. As for the corrupted themselves, I can take my time studying them later. Hakama spoke up. By the way, what should I call you? He answered. Just call me Jin. Lord Jin, she said. He shot that down. Nah, drop the Lord part. She obediently did as he said. Suddenly, someone on horseback galloped toward them. Hearing the noise, both of them whipped their heads around to look. Some dude just popped up out of nowhere, all like, Yo, my bad for interrupting your chill time. He and his 2 buddies on horseback rolled up, asking, Can I get a few minutes of your time? This guy had a vibe that screamed, Don't mess with me. Jane was like, who the hell are you? Agus just glanced down at him and laid it out. We're the Holy Knights from the royal capital. I'm the captain of the 7th Division, August Anton. Jane couldn't help himself. Holy Knights? He thought to himself. Wait, is this the dude they were talking about earlier? All of a sudden, this girl Karina grits her teeth, totally pissed off. She just starts screaming, Hey, you! What's with the attitude in front of our captain? The least you could do is stand up and say hello. Then she looks over at Agus, who's getting off his horse, totally convinced. What a disrespectful punk. Captain, it's definitely them. Hearing that, her captain just cuts her off. That's enough. Agus walked right up to Jane and offered a hand. Sorry for talking down to you from my horse. You mind chatting with me for a bit? Seeing this, Jane stood up, suddenly way more curious. A second ago, she said it's definitely them. What's that about? The captain just dodged the question, saying, on behalf of my subordinate, I apologize for her rudeness. Then Agus got right down to business. But first, I need you to answer a few things. Where did you two come from, and where are you headed next? Hakama, still munching on a snack, was totally honest. We came from Kodama village and we're on our way to the capital. The captain looked suspicious, thinking, from Kodama village? The moment she heard that answer, Karina got this weird smirk on her face. She jumped off her horse, more certain than ever. I'm still convinced it's them. Karina gripped her sword, totally fired up, and screamed, there are no birth records for any low-class races in Kodama village. The gig is up, you low-class scum. Hearing that, Jane looked surprised and thought, wait, they have birth records here? This country is way more organized than I thought. Suddenly, Agus cut through all that tension with a random comment. His words made the girl freeze up. Huh? He looked at Hakama and pointed out that the clothes she was wearing were a specialty from the Kodama region. That's Kodama silk clothing. Even in the capital, it's sold for a crazy high price. It's considered a super luxury item. Hearing that assessment, Karina was even more sure of herself, stating that Kodama silk made for a kid is something you almost never see on the market. So, the fact that the kid is from Kodama village is probably true. That comment left Karina totally confused, but then, out of nowhere, the captain whipped out his sword, but he pointed that sword straight at Jane's face and declared, you, on the other hand, are a completely different story. Agus looked down at his clothes. That outfit you're wearing is seriously weird. Where'd you even get that? Look, the road from Kodama to the capital has had a bunch of robberies by bandits who use kids to steal stuff. Agus's eyes were sharp, totally convinced by his own theory. A lot like the situation you two are in right now. They always act all innocent. Hearing that, Hakama totally panicked and yelled back at them. That wasn't us. He shot back coldly. We'll be the ones to decide that. The little girl gritted her teeth, totally worried about what was happening. Looking like she'd made up her mind, Hakama started to unleash her divine power. Agus seemed to know what she was planning and frowned. He made glowing swords appear all around Hakama and yelled, don't even think about pulling any stunts. The kid scowled, struggling with her current situation. Agus looked kind of impressed, even amazed. I can't believe you actually have divine power. You seem like you've got some serious potential. Jain was just quietly watching Hakama, thinking, so this is what a holy knight is. Seeing the insane pressure the guy was giving off, even he had to admit it. Okay, I get it. This dude is ridiculously strong. Agus kept that same attitude as he grilled Jain. Answer me now. Where did you really come from, depending on your answer? Then he threatened him. I'll decide whether or not to chop your head off right here. Jain stayed silent. His whole expression darkened after hearing that threat. Agus shoved the tip of his sword closer to Jain, demanding, answer me. Where did you actually come from? What you're about to say will decide if you keep your head or not. He narrowed his eyes, staring Jain down, not letting his guard down for a second. Even with the threat, Jain didn't move an inch. He just kept quiet, his face getting darker and his eyes turning sharp as a blade. Agus's intensity didn't back down either, his gaze locked on his opponent. Faced with the guy's insane persistence, Jain finally just sighed like he was giving up. I came from Kodama village. The second he heard that name, Karina, standing behind Agus, immediately blew up. What? That is so obviously a lie. Ignoring the girl's doubts, the captain just accepted his answer and put his sword back at his side. I see. This just confused the girl. Wait, Captain. Agus turned to Hakama, who was standing right there, to check the story. You're not lying, are you? The kid was dead serious. Jain is the actual guardian god of our village, Kodama. He was a little shocked to hear that. A guardian god? But he didn't ask any more questions. Is that so? Seeing Agus getting ready to leave, Jain looked pretty surprised. Are you done with your questions? Yeah. He jumped back on his horse, looking kind of guilty. I've still got business to take care of, so please forgive me for being a jerk just now. But Karina wasn't ready to let Jain off the hook. She screamed, ugh, Captain! But he just ignored her yelling. August asked Jain, are you guys also heading towards the capital? Yeah, I see. Then I'm sure we'll run into each other again. He even offered to help them out. If you run into any trouble later, just come find me. Consider it my apology for today's mess. Karina just screamed again. Captain Agus started to ride away. Well then, we won't bother you anymore. The girl was just stunned, totally confused by his actions. What is this? Are you being serious right now? The girl yelled after her captain, wait for me! Jane just stood there watching them leave with a half-hearted smile. The scene changes to Agus's squad moving towards the capital. Karina wouldn't stop grilling him about what just happened. Why did you choose to back down like that? She waved her hands all over the place, questioning him. No matter how you look at it, that low-class guy was super suspicious. Agus just stayed quiet, not answering. He was lost in his own thoughts. A low-class guy, huh? That's when he finally spoke up. I'm starting to wonder who the really weaker one is here. Karina was totally confused by what he said. Huh? But Rhea, riding her horse next to them, seemed to agree. For real? That just makes this whole thing even more confusing. Even you, Senior Rhea? She tilted her head, staring at Karina. Didn't you see it? Rhea recalled the insane power that was radiating off Jane. The power gap between us and that guy is just huge. Agus chimed in, his face getting serious. I tried to make a move on him like 2 or 3 times, but he remembered pointing his sword at Jane, only for it to be completely frozen in place. Meanwhile, this guy's just chilling with his hands in his pockets, stopping my blade with his power alone. This fight was over before it even started. He countered me before I could even flinch. Rhea glanced at Agus, worried. Captain, did you try to use your holy power? Yeah. His admission sent a shockwave through Karina. I couldn't even activate it. I was going to pull the same trick I used on Hakama, use a similar power against him, but the spirits basically ghosted me. They refused to lend me their strength. Rhea had to admit it. Yeah, same thing happened to me. It was only then that Karina finally got how serious this was. Agus continued, which means the difference in our holy power is just way too massive. To pull off a miracle like that, his expression darkened. Realizing how bad this was, he figured that in the entire Night Order, maybe only the Grand Commander could match him. Both Karina and Rhea flinched when they heard that. The girl gritted her teeth, blaming herself. I didn't sense a thing. A ghost totally got it, though. It's just 'cause that guy is a total anomaly. Besides, you're still new to the team. Everyone started whispering. So, does that mean he's the one who wiped out those invading monsters? Most likely. But Karina wasn't satisfied, refusing to let it slide so easily. Are we seriously just gonna let them walk away like that? Isn't that, like, super dangerous? Agus was helpless. I don't know who they are, but they don't seem like they're looking for trouble. For now, let's just keep an eye on them from a distance. Putting that aside, he turned and gave his orders. All right, let's head back to the capital. We dealt with the monster invasion faster than we thought, but we can't be gone any longer. We'll hand the bandit case over to the guild to handle. Understood, sir. Rhea turned to give Karina some advice after today's mess. You should focus more on your attitude instead of just obsessing over power. Up ahead, a ghost couldn't stop thinking. The guardian deity of Kodama village. Lost in thought, he didn't even notice his troops were already approaching the capital. If that guy becomes our ally, Agus wanted to grab this chance. He could be the key to solving the kingdom's biggest damn problem. Scene change. Jane and Hakama are also marching toward the capital. He remarked that yesterday was a pretty wild encounter. He wondered if all the knights in the capital were as ridiculously strong as them. She shot that down. No way. Those guys are a special case. Hakama knew exactly who they were. Holy Knights. They're an elite squad, handpicked from the best of the best, and those two are pretty much at the top. In that elite group, she couldn't stop praising their power. The speed, they summoned spirits. No, that's wrong. Their spirit arts are on a whole different level. Jane was a little confused. Spirit arts? Hakama explained, it's the art of summoning elemental spirits and borrowing their power. He nodded. I get it. So they call nanoparticles spirits? He thought to himself as they walked. That in this era, science was basically just science fiction. Suddenly, Jane remembered Karina aggressively pointing her sword at him, yelling about being low-life trash. He sighed. And that whole inferior race thing, that helps him figure some stuff out. So, I guess there are a ton of different races in this era, huh? That's right. Hakama described a few of the common ones. There are people who look exactly like fish, and others who look like insects. Jane was surprised. Insects? She explained how that even happened. My grandma told me it's because everyone's living space got messed up a long, long time ago. It made all the races look different, because everyone's bodies had to change to survive wherever they ended up. Jane was floored by this new info. Evolution based on environmental factors? He got lost in his own thoughts. So does that mean some people survived from 100 million years ago, and humanity evolved into this? Whatever. Overthinking it now isn't going to solve anything. Jane finally understood why everyone looked down on him. And that's why people who didn't evolve are called inferior? Yep, Hakama knew that's just how this world works. That's why society trashes on the inferior people, the ones who didn't adapt, because they're seen as evolutionary rejects. She gave him some more intel on this world. Most of the people sold into slavery are from the inferior races, too. Jane gritted his teeth hearing this. So, slavery is still a thing here. Hakama was just as pissed off about the discrimination. But honestly, there's not even that big of a difference. They're just a little different from most people, and they get treated like garbage for it. She was fuming. It's just so wrong. Jane smiled and praised her. You're a good kid. Suddenly, a guy leaning on a stick stumbled into their path, blocking them. His voice was a weak, tired whisper, begging for help. Please, save me. Then he just collapsed. Hakama rushed over, worried. Hey, are you okay? As she ran to him, Jane slowly moved closer to check him out. The guy was gasping for air on the ground, his breathing heavy, his body covered in wounds and bruises. And his ears. They looked completely human, with no changes at all. Those ears are weird. The guy lay on the ground, all dirty, panting. Jane stood there, hand on his chin, thinking, he's bruised all over. These injuries look pretty bad. Hakama kneeled next to him, slowly helping him sit up. Are you all right? Jane held out a hand, channeling his power. Just hang on for a second. I'll heal you right now. But then, a flash in the guy's eyes made Jane freeze, listening to his next words. Don't you dare move. One of the guy's hands held a knife, the other wrapped around the kid's neck in a threat. You even twitch, and this little girl dies. The three of them were now locked in this terrifying standoff. Jane calmly looked down, thinking, so that's how it is. He watched the guy grit his teeth, knife to Hakama's throat. We were dumb enough to fall for your trap. His eyes darted away. Figures. Those losers were somewhere nearby. In the distance, a shadowy figure of some dude started walking over. So she actually had a partner, Lame. This guy shows up with a gnarly beard, all like, yeah, you did your job or whatever. Poru, some chump, rolls up with his crew trailing him. You followed the orders perfectly. Jin was already thinking, it's gotta be that invisibility camouflage tech. An image of the silhouette just popped into his head, arrows and all. It works by scanning the surroundings, then uses a bunch of micro nanoparticles to make the user totally invisible. He just stood there, totally unfazed, thinking its only real weakness is that moving messes up the camo, but these clowns were running it like pros, all while that other idiot kept a sword pointed at his face. A lowlife like you is wearing some pretty nice threads, huh? What country are you even from? The tip of the sword pushed closer to Jin's neck. Just chill. Don't try anything stupid. Hakama struggled from the side, screaming, Sir Jin, but the creep just kept taunting him. You know exactly what'll happen if you make a move, don't you? Over on the side, the girl was clutching her stomach, her power going wild. He had to yell, Hakama. That finally got her to get a grip. Then Jin finally spoke. That kind of power isn't meant for people. You get that, right? The girl just freaked out, screaming. The dude's sword was still aimed at him, but his head snapped back. We hit the jackpot, boss. Can't believe it. That little brat actually has divine power. One of his goons piped up. You can use it too, right? He shot back. Who knows? The guy blew a fuse. What? And then just kicked Jin straight in the gut. He collapsed to the ground. Hakama screamed, Sir Jin! The guy just kept his foot on him. Don't you dare get smug. You worthless trash. The other guy warned him, watch it, don't damage the goods. He just scowled. Whatever, a bottom feeder like him isn't worth much anyway. But what if they have divine power? There's no way a bunch of nobodies could handle that kind of power. Hakama thought to herself. These guys... The girl's face was filled with pure dread. This had to be the gang of bandits the Holy Knight mentioned, human traffickers. The creep started walking toward her, power crackling in his hand. All right, that's enough. Time for a little nap. A thought flashed in her head. Asterisk, if we just let them take us like this. Asterisk. The hand crackling with energy got closer, and she was terrified. Asterisk. We're both going to be sold as slaves. Asterisk. The darkness faded. Jin was right there, calling her name. Hakama, wake up. Hey, Hakama, she mumbled back. Sir Jin. Then she shot up, totally scared. He was sitting next to her, built like a brick wall. Are you hurt? She looked over at him. I'm okay. More importantly, they were stuck in iron cages, and there were tons of other victims outside. Where the hell are we locked up? Jin turned his head away. This is the den of the guys who attacked us. Looking out at the others in cages, it seemed like everyone else they'd captured had all been thrown together in this one place. Some of the people in there were just skin and bones. There was even a poor blue-haired girl hugging her frail body. They sat there terrified, until Hakama looked at him. Why are you naked? Jin just lowered his head, eyes closed. They stripped my clothes, said the outfit was too weird. Lucky for me, they left my underwear. She just sat there, stunned. You don't seem that worried about it. He looked away. Whatever. I spent most of my past life half naked anyway. She looked at him with this innocent face. Okay, setting that aside for a second. Why didn't you fight back then? Jin just sat there, listening to her. With your strength, you could have easily wiped them out. Sir Jin. On the other side, a guard walked in with that kid from before. Let's just get this over with. They both turned to look at the grubby kid holding 2 pieces of bread. So, you've been awake for a while, huh? Hakama jumped up, grabbing the bars and screaming, "You!" The kid just squatted and gave her the bread. "I don't care if you end up hating me." Then he casually stood up and looked down. "Because I never expected to be forgiven in the first place." Hakama just gritted her teeth, clinging to the bars. Jin's voice cut in, grabbing the kid's attention. "That's actually really merciful." The kid looked down, shocked. "Merciful?" Jin shot back. "A real villain doesn't waste time wondering if they're hated or forgiven." Then he slowly stood up, and both of them just stared at him. "All right, let's start." Jin gripped the iron bar of the cage. This totally freaked the kid out. Jin stood in the hole he'd just ripped open. Easy. The kid was speechless. Hakama watched from behind as he just dusted off his hands. "I was waiting for you, patiently. No one can eavesdrop on our conversation here," the kid replied. "Waiting for me?" The kid's face went pale when Jin asked, "The person who's most important to you. Where are they keeping them?" The kid hunched over, wary. "How the hell did you know about that?" He slowly stepped out, power radiating from his hand. "It was just a guess." The kid was just speechless in the face of his power. "At first, you actually had me fooled too, because the bruises on you are totally real." The kid looked down at the bruises, shocked that Jin brought them up. "But even a total scumbag wouldn't beat up their own partner like this just to use them. So I figured out what was going on pretty early." The kid was amazed. He saw right through it. "I realized they were threatening you, forcing you to do what they want." The kid's hands started shaking as he clasped them together. Then he finally said it, "My little brother, they took him." He remembered the painful moment they were torn apart. "And my parents," he screamed, full of bitterness. "Those bastards brutally murdered them both." He clutched his shirt, tears streaming down his face. "So I have to protect my little brother, no matter what it takes." Hakama saw Jin clench his fist as he listened. "That's the only reason I did it." Jin's face was terrifying as he heard about their crimes. "They're absolute garbage." The girl looked up at him. "So, you let them capture you on purpose to save them?" He replied, "That was part of the plan. But bad guys are always stubborn and a real pain in the ass. They're like stubborn grease stains. Miss one, let them get away, and they'll just multiply and cause more trouble." Those words echoed out, making the guy whip his head around, totally clueless. So, once he decided to wipe them out, Jin kicked the door from behind, sending it and the dude flying. He grabbed the busted door frame, his grip tightening. With a terrifying look, he knew. You gotta pull weeds by the root, leave nothing behind, a total and brutal cleanup. When it comes to trash, I know them better than anyone. 1,000,000,000 years ago, in some bustling city, a grimy little Jin appeared. He'd watch the news, seeing stories about busting some drug lord. Yeah, I was like that too, always wanting to serve up some justice. A car pulled up behind him on the street, and footsteps appeared right behind Jin. But I figured something out pretty quick. A world like this, it still needs justice. 3 thugs with ugly mugs stood there. Basically, they were just the dregs of humanity, and they were breeding everywhere. The leader, with a smoke hanging from his lips, lifted Jin up. If I could have just lived a normal life, that would have been ideal. But back then, his face was totally blank. The world I grew up in wouldn't allow that crap. He was still caught in the guy's grip. So, a moment later, Jin just raised a hand and snapped the guy's arm sideways. I crushed them. Then, he slammed his foot straight into the guy's stomach, stomping without mercy. And now that he's grown, he's just as strict about destroying them. Jin casually sat on the pile of people he'd just wrecked. I just kept cleaning house, one by one. Suddenly, someone stood before the mountain of bodies he was sitting on. And then one day, someone told me something that made me flinch and scowl. Kagura reached out a hand, as if to grab him. You were totally born in the wrong world. Back to the present, Jin was dragging a guy across the floor. The 2 soldiers there gritted their teeth and stuttered, "Stop it, right now!" Countless soldiers were already down on the ground. "What the hell do you even want?" one of them yelled, as more of his comrades fell. "How did you even get in here?" Jin just gave a terrifying smile. Then he hurled a guy straight at them. The soldier panicked, catching his buddy in disbelief. Then he rushed forward, launching a flurry of attacks. But the soldier just stood there, frozen in fear, watching a punch from Jin cave someone's face in. "You bastard! Who the hell are you?" he screamed from the floor, holding his wounded comrade in terror. On the other side, the people locked in iron cages had been set free. Poru looked super worried. That scream, she wondered aloud, anxiously turning to ask, "What kind of person is your companion anyway? A god?" Hakama turned and answered calmly, "He's a guardian deity, a literal god." The little girl looked up, her voice full of confidence. "Just leave everything to Mr. Jin. He'll take care of it, no problem." She glanced back as they prepared to leave. "For now, let's just do what Mr. Jin told us. Get everyone out of here," she thought, a worried look on her face. "Are we actually going to get out of this alive?" She gritted her teeth in hatred thinking about that guy. But that's scum. He has an insane amount of holy power. There's no way Jin can beat him with just muscle. At that moment, the guy was cowering on the floor. Wait a sec. Jin grabbed another guy by the head right in front of him. So what is it you're craving, huh? Money? The guy forced a nervous laugh. No. He pointed a finger straight at the boy in the iron cage. Or maybe you want a slave? He looked at the kid, who was a spitting image of a young, pathetic Jin, and continued. If that's it, I'll give you as many as you want. Jin just glared without saying a word, then slammed the guy's head into the ground, drawing blood. Are you finished with your last words yet? The guy sat there, sweating bullets. What the hell is going on? He stared at Jin in horror. Why is my holy magic so useless? Jin took a menacing step closer. The guy grit his teeth, thinking, what kind of messed up power does he have? As he got closer, Jin spoke. You're just a second-rate villain. The guy was still listening. The real pros would have bailed instantly. Jin looked down at him with a scowl. But your type always runs their mouth at first, looking down on your opponent, absolutely convinced you're gonna win. His next words made the guy snap. And then, the second you get a taste of failure, you start begging pathetically. Damn it, the guy thought. He bolted, making a run for it. If it's come to this, then I have no other choice. His hand slammed a switch down as he yelled, It's not over yet. This isn't the end. He grinned wickedly as a door shut, revealing a monster behind it. Jin froze, surprised. The guy was still acting cocky. I got this little thing by special request, you know. The huge, terrifying monster took a heavy step forward. If playing nice doesn't work, then I guess this is it. The guy flashed a wide grin. I'm going to make you completely and utterly miserable. The monster in front of Jin opened its mouth and blasted out a wave of purple energy. Then it swung an arm. Jin watched it carefully, crossing his arms over his head as it attacked. Suddenly, the guy's jaw dropped. Huh? Turns out, the monster's punch was stopped effortlessly by Jin's two hands. You see, Jin said, glancing over while holding back the punch. I was born with a pretty extraordinary body. Compared to normal people, it seems I have a lot more muscle fibers. Then Jin shoved the arm straight up. Well then, he leaped up, blue power swirling around his arm. I won't go easy on something that's been corrupted. As he thrust his hand out, a bright blue energy flashed. And I'll use holy power too. Instantly, the monster melted into a puddle on the floor, making the guy scream in pure terror. In a flash, Jin was standing right in front of him. He can use holy power too? The guy thought. Then Jin spoke, his face completely unreadable. So, what's your next move? The guy was drenched in sweat, speechless, his hands clasped together and shaking. Can you just look the other way and let me go this one time? Before he could finish, Jin's fist slammed into his face, distorting it. I can't. Jin put on his jacket as he spoke. All right. He turned and walked away, leaving the guy there to think, got my clothes back. Then he looked over at the 4 kids in the iron cage. Sorry, but you'll have to hang on a little longer. To the 4 kids, Jin's words were like a ray of light cutting through the darkness. All right, I'll get everyone out of this dump soon. He stood at the desk, picking up a folder. But first, I gotta dig up some dirt. It's pointless if I can't nail these scumbags with solid proof of their crimes. He yanked open a drawer and found a stack of papers. I'm leaning over the table, holding this piece of paper, and, not gonna lie, this thing looks sketchy as hell. These weird letters pop up, and I'm smirking like, oh yeah, I get it now. But a second later, my brain is just full of question marks. What is this even supposed to be about? I literally can't make sense of a single word. He stood there, watching the other guy collapsed on the floor. Guess I'll have to get Hakama to teach me this era's lame language. Then he crouched down, touching the goo left by the monster. Still, what were these clowns planning to do with the corrupted ones they captured? The moment he touched it, waves of power rippled out. Time to find out what's really going on. Digital screens flickered to life all around him. I'm hacking into the camera feeds from the nanos floating around here. Jane sat in the middle of it all, looking down, thinking any footage from the last week should still be archived in here. His gaze turned deadly serious. In a flashback, inside the monster's pen, a lackey stood behind the boss. But sir, what are your plans for such a massive haul? The boss just scoffed. That's none of your business. The old creep flashed a nasty grin. However, I guess I'll let you in on a little secret. He glanced up, a dangerous glint in his eye. Very soon, something incredibly interesting is about to go down in this country. Back in the present, Jane scowled at the screen. The next day, in some old-school village, the freed people were all lined up. Hakama and Porwaru were there, looking around. Suddenly, she jumped, spotting something. Nino! As she called out, the little girl ran from Jane's side. Nino, sis! The 2 sisters crashed into each other in a tearful mess. They hugged like their lives depended on it, and Porwaru choked back a sob. Thank God, you're okay. She grabbed her sister's hand and looked up at him. Sir, I can't thank you enough. He stood before them, totally chill. I'm no god or whatever, don't sweat it. Then Jane glanced to the side. By the way, I've got a question. He nodded towards the people rounding up the bandits and asked, So, are those guys working for the local lord or what? Hakama chimed in from the side. Nah, not a chance. They're from the guild. I'm the one who called them. That dude over there is Padaraku, the guildmaster for this town. Oh, really? Just then, the guy turned, spotted them, and started walking over. Are you the one who took care of this mess? Jane just replied. Yeah, that was me. Padaraku and his men immediately bowed deep. My name is Padaraku, the guildmaster. I offer my sincerest thanks for your assistance. He then glanced up, sizing up Jane. This kid really got him thinking. Asterisk. To take on that many enemies and not even have a single scratch on him. He looks like some low-tier race, but my gut is screaming that this kid is anything but average. Asterisk. He finally spoke up. We've been getting a ton of reports lately about the damages related to this whole incident. The guild has been flooded with requests to wipe out this bandit crew. Jane just stood there and replied, So the local lord didn't bother sending his own troops to arrest them? Lame. Padaraku put his hands on his hips. You've got to be kidding me. A lord doesn't have that kind of power. A flashback showed a lord kneeling to a superior as he explained. The only people with the authority to handle criminals like these are guild members, who swore an oath of loyalty to the king. He gestured with his hand as he continued. Even if the lord of this region, a guy named Sapi, broke the law himself, we're still obligated to report his ass to the king. Not that something like that would ever happen, of course. Jane brought a hand to his chin, deep in thought. Asterisk. So, in terms from 100 million years ago, the Lord is basically a mayor, and the guild is like the police. Asterisk. His mind was already cooking up some dangerous theories about the guy. But this Sapi guy. He then pulled out a scroll and handed it over. Here, I found this on one of those thugs. Think it'll be any use to you? Padaraku unrolled it, and his eyes went wide. This is a list of everyone who's been making backroom deals with the bandits. He kept reading. With this in our hands, we can round up the entire network in one fell swoop. Jane cut in. Is the local lord's name on that list? Jane's brow furrowed at the response. Hey now, don't take my earlier joke so seriously. Of course he's not on it. Asterisk. Yeah, right. Asterisk, he thought to himself. Asterisk. I get it. This guy's a slick kind of scumbag. Asterisk. He glanced at Porwaru, who looked totally confused. Asterisk. Can't really do anything else about it for now. Asterisk, more importantly, Jane patted the little sister's head and turned to the guildmaster. So what happens to the slaves we just freed? What's their future look like? Padaraku answered right away. For anyone with a missing persons report filed or whose identity we can confirm, the guild will take full responsibility for getting them back home. The two kids looked down, their faces falling at his answer. But for anyone who doesn't fall into either of those categories, there's really nothing we can do for them. Jane just stood there thinking, Asterisk, if I remember right, these two lost both their parents. Asterisk. He finally spoke up. Seriously? You guys don't have any care facilities or something? Padaraku glanced to the side. Not a single one. All we can do is act as a middleman to help them find a job. But as he looked at the two poor kids, he said, and since these two belong to a low-tier race, I'm afraid finding any kind of work is going to be next to impossible. Jane hung his head and sighed. Asterisk. Man, I want to help them out, but... Asterisk. The two kids just stared at each other, and he couldn't help but watch them, his mind racing. Asterisk. If no one's willing to hire them, they're screwed. Asterisk. But then, something clicked in his head. No, wait a sec. He turned to the two sisters. If I knew a place where you two could work, would you be willing to go? Poor Waru immediately perked up. Yes. Absolutely. You already have somewhere in mind? Jane cracked a smile. I do. He remembered what Agus said. Asterisk, if you ever run into any trouble, just come find me. Asterisk. A slightly menacing look crossed Jane's face. Yeah, I know the absolute perfect place for you two. The next day, at the August estate in the capital of Cremia, August's eyes suddenly shot wide open in panic. Rhea, riding up behind him, asked, What's up with you? He sat on his horse in front. Nah, it's nothing. Just suddenly felt a chill run down my spine. Then he dismounted from his horse. August turned from his horse, taking it all in. Yeah, this was enough. He stood before his entire army. The long-ass campaign was finally over. Good work, everyone. Get some real rest today. Then, he walked into the building. The maids all bowed in perfect sync. Welcome back, Master Agus. He hit up the butler, asking if there were any new reports. The dude just looked over at some scared maid behind him. Agus shut his eyes. So, what's the deal? What happened? The butler beside him bowed low. I'm so sorry to bug you when you're dead tired like this, but Agus just shot him a look. Whatever, just spill it. The old guy looked stressed, and Agus glanced away. Up above, a girl watched the two of them walk off. It was Milia, arms crossed, just staring. Agus waved his hand dismissively. I get it. Thanks for the report. The butler bowed. Of course, sir. He then put a hand to his head, sighing. This situation is way worse than I thought. He remembered that monster messing with the city's residents. An invader, right here in the capital? Seriously? How the hell did it even get in here? Agus's scowl was terrifying. Nah, someone had to have let it in on purpose. He thought back to the campus of some building. The most sus part was how they were so hell-bent on keeping anyone without business out of Hanek's academy. Anyway, a flash of Jane walking with the three kids appeared in his mind. I need to find some allies, and fast. 3 days had passed since they wrecked that bandit crew. Jane was walking with Poru, her little bro, and Hakama. She was frowning at him. Are you seriously sure there's a decent job for someone like me in a place like the capital? He glanced over. Chill out. Jane was still looking down. You already know how to read and write. Poru is even crazy good with numbers. You'll totally find a gig. He kept going. Just have a little faith in your own skills. Her face lit up at his words. Yeah, okay. Suddenly, a voice called out, Jane, look! Hakama was pointing at a castle in the distance. We're here. Jane's face was pure shock as the four of them looked down on the incredible kingdom from above. This is the capital of the kingdom? For real? The sky here looked like it was dyed pink. All four of them were stunned, especially Poru. Whoa, this place is so packed and full of life. Hakama pointed to a stall over on the side. The capital depends a lot on imported goods, so stuff from every region ends up here. She imagined all the different items. The villagers from Kodama used to make the trek here all the time to sell their specialties. Jane glanced at her. Yeah, I've heard that before. He glanced at the weirdos around them. Got it. So this place is interesting. An insect tribe? He looked at 2 other types of people. Way too many different races and civilizations all crammed in one spot. Guess it makes sense that some unique stuff would pop up. Then he turned his attention to a stall. These are all imported directly from the neighboring country. This city is also kept ridiculously clean. And Jane looked at the kids. The security system seems pretty tight, too. Suddenly, his eyes darted to something. Over there, some fancy-looking dude was standing in front of a bunch of homeless people. He scowled, thinking to himself, guess every era has its own set of problems. Milia had appeared behind him at some point, right as he was looking down at Hakama. So when do you start school? The kid looked up. Next week. She just stood there watching them walk away as he replied, so we've still got a little time to get ready. The kid shot back. Enrollment starts right after the exams are over. Milia thought to herself, she wants to enroll in Hanek's academy? Pfft. She covered her mouth with her fan, side-eyeing the little brat. And with some low-class race dude, no less. That night, a girl stood in front of a house, all lit up. Inside, Poru's brother and Hakama were jumping on the bed, hyped. Jane sat on her own bed. Finally, we found a decent place to crash. The girl lying next to her replied, yeah, for sure. He stood there, hand over his mouth, thinking, so, the group finally made it to the destination, the royal capital. What's my next move? He held a bag of gold, lost in thought. No matter what, I still need cash to survive in this era. Suddenly, Hakama walked over and placed the money bag on his head, making him think, even though we got a reward for wiping out those bandits, this money isn't gonna last forever. Not to mention, I had to split some of it with the slaves. An image of a tired Poru watching over his sibling flashed in his mind. Plus, there's the problem of finding a stable job for these 2 kids. He remembered Agus. Meeting that guy would be the fastest way to solve things. But without a hookup, I doubt I can just meet him right away. Jane put a hand to his chin, his eyes darting around. Then, he got up from the bed. I guess first I should do a thorough investigation on the corrupted of this era. He remembered those thugs from the other day, especially since some creeps are trying to use them for their own shady plans. Jane stood at the window, thoughts racing. The corrupted are a freaking disaster. No way I can let them run wild. He glanced down at the bustling scene below. I will never let that horrifying era happen again. Not on my watch. Suddenly, Jane turned to Hakama. What do people in this country usually do? You know, when they want to learn or research something? The kid rested her chin on her hands, lying on the bed. They'd go find someone to ask, find a teacher, or read some books. Then she flopped onto the bed. But books here are stupid, expensive. Back in Kodama Village, we had to share the few books we were lucky to get. Hakama looked up. But the capital has a huge library. You can totally go there to look stuff up. Jane put a hand to his mouth. They have a library here? He looked up, thinking, well, that's convenient. I'll definitely make good use of that place. Who knows, maybe I'll even find a clue about the research facility Kagura left behind. A girl with pink hair sat there, smiling brightly. I'm so sorry, but you're not allowed to use the facilities here. The 4 of them just froze when they heard her. Because books are considered national property, we can't just let anyone waltz in. She kept going. Access is limited to students with proven abilities recognized by the academy, lecturers, and nobles living in the capital. Jane sighed. Ah, so that's how it is. Hakama's just standing there, totally unfazed. Like, dude, you couldn't even read from the start. And then it hits me. Crap, he's right, I'm still basically illiterate. I remember Hakama and Parwaru trying to teach me in the forest. Everyone's been trying to drill it into my head lately, but it's gonna take a while before I'm not a total moron. I bury my face in my hands with a sigh. What am I even supposed to do now? But then I hear whispers from two cloaked weirdos behind me. That's them, right? The other one points. The low-class trash with the kids, that's gotta be them. Suddenly, some other voice calls out, making me turn around. Got a minute? The second I turn, a fist comes flying at my face, but I snatch it out of the air. Easy. My expression gets real nasty. A minute? That's a pretty messed up way of saying hello, isn't it? The guy's still grinning like a psycho. And here I was thinking security around here was actually decent. A sick golden light erupts from our locked hands. I let go, and his arm flies up, still flashing with that nasty glow. It shoots up into the sky, making everyone stare. But this clown is still smiling, holding his hand out. You're dead wrong, pal. But hey, your instincts are sharp. Powaru's little brother is clinging to her for dear life. They're both thinking the same thing. Are they seriously using divine power, right in the middle of the city? I stand my ground and ask, you want to tell me what the hell you want? The guy just gestures vaguely. Let's just say a certain someone thinks you guys are a total eyesore. My eyes narrow, so they're just hired thugs. I stroke my chin, thinking, whatever. This is actually working out perfectly for me. The two losers are laughing their heads off. If you just get lost and leave the capital right now, you won't have to worry about this crap every day. Got it? I just stare back. When things get really times dangerous, I'll consider it. Is that so? My hand crushes his wrist. The color drains from his face before I casually slam him into the ground. The guy looks like his head's about to pop off from the pain. His buddy's hand is still trapped by that glowing gold power. You son of a... He spews fire right at my back, and I'm totally engulfed in the blaze. The idiot actually looks happy about it, but his little party doesn't last long. I walk right out of the smoke and grab him by the collar. I lift him up with one hand while his body won't stop shaking. If you really want to be a threat, come back when you're not so pathetic. I pull my fist back. But that's only if you've still got the guts to challenge me again. He's just dangling there, totally freaking out. This guy. Isn't he supposed to be some low-class species? While we're in the middle of it, a loud scream rips through the air. That's enough! All of you! Freeze! Don't move! Great. It's Karina, and she looks seriously pissed. For real, can't even get a break on my day off. You dare start a street brawl like this? They all just stare at the kid yelling at them with a sword pointed at their faces. I'm throwing all of you in jail, so get ready, she screams, so loud I drop the dude with a thud and turn to look at her. Looks like causing a little chaos finally paid off. Karina's jaw drops as she points at me. You're that low-class trash from the other day, aren't you? Karina shoves a finger in my face, shouting, It's you again, that bottom feeder race. The disgust is all over her face as she aims her spear right at me. You've got some serious nerve, starting trouble the second you set foot in the capital. She's still acting all high and mighty. Guess a lowlife will always be a lowlife. Don't you know there are lines you just don't cross? But then another voice cuts her off. Some lady stammers. Sorry to interrupt. I just happened to be passing by and saw the whole thing. These people were actually the ones who got ambushed. Karina's face just freezes. I'm pretty sure what they did was just self-defense. A moment later, a familiar voice pipes up. Well now, he looks awfully familiar. Karina glances at the punk and then back at us. You guys are from Hannes Academy, right? After a quick chat, she rubs her forehead and sighs. Just as I thought. I really hope that young lady isn't involved in this. Hearing that, I can't help but ask, what young lady? Karina waves her guards over while answering me. Take them away. That's our internal business. You don't need to worry about it. I watch her, actually a little surprised. So Holy Knights have to do street patrols now? I thought that was a job for the guild. She gives me a cold look. The capital is huge. We're just helping maintain public order, but I can practically hear what she's really thinking. To be honest, I was just looking for a snack when I stumbled into this mess. Suddenly, her eyes get serious again. However, Karina secretly sizes me up. This guy is seriously powerful. Those academy students weren't exactly weaklings either. Then she turns to leave. All right, just try not to cause any more trouble in the capital. I suddenly yell after her. Wait a sec, if you don't mind, I need you to take me somewhere. Karina turns back, looking confused. You want me to take you somewhere? The sky's already dark. The scene changes to the August mansion, where I'm sitting across from the guy, saying it straight. Hire us. My words make August's face go completely blank. Didn't you tell me to look you up if I needed help or something? He glances over my crew, a question in his eyes. Looks like you've got more people with you than last time we met. I just shrug it off. Yeah, well, some unexpected stuff happened. I give him the quick version. We ran into those bandits you warned me about. Saw they were being held captive, so I got them out. August looks worried. What about the bandits? I tell him exactly what I did. I beat the crap out of them. After that, I handed the rest over for the guild to deal with. He nods. I see. Meanwhile, I can see the doubt in August's head. Did he really take them all down by himself? Thinking that, he just has to ask, why did you decide to help these girls? I talk to him calmly. They don't have any family left. They're what you people call lowlifes. My eyes soften for a second, looking at the two kids next to me. I figured the least I could do was try to find them a job. August gives me a skeptical look. I don't think you have any responsibility to take care of them. Jin just shot back. Totally cool. It's just how I work. He was dead serious with every word. Whatever the reason, I saved their lives. And I don't half-ass things. I'm seeing this through to the end. August looked totally shook hearing that. Meanwhile, Porwaru and the kid were practically bowing in gratitude. After a moment, he finally gave a nod. All right, fine. The two of them can stay and work here at the mansion. She was so stoked, she had to ask again. For real? But August had his own angle. However, I have one condition. His voice rang out, slow and deliberate. I want you to take on the role of an instructor. Jin was completely blindsided by the request. An instructor? Yep. A little later, Porwaru and the kid were decked out in new work clothes. Jin nodded, satisfied with how they looked. Not bad. They actually look the part, don't they? She was so grateful she bowed deeply to August. Sir August, we are forever in your debt. Seeing this, he just waved it off. You don't need to thank me. Then, August turned to give orders to his staff. I'm trusting you two to train them, and there better be absolutely no discrimination just because they're lowborn. The two of them immediately snapped to it. Yes, sir. Before leaving, Porwaru and the kid waved to Jin. Thank you so much. On the road, he cut right to the chase. So, what's the catch? This whole instructor gig. You're up to something, aren't you? August just kept walking as he answered calmly. You're pretty sharp, huh? That'll come in handy for the job. Because right then, his eyes were dead serious. Look, I don't know your whole deal, but I'm taking a gamble that you're the right person to ask for this. The truth is, I need you to go on an undercover mission inside Hannes Academy. Hearing that, Jin's whole expression hardened. What is this really about? He slowly revealed a bombshell of a secret. Right now, this kingdom is the target of a ton of different factions all fighting for power. Jin heard this and shot back, confused. Wait, doesn't this place have a king? At that question, August's face fell. The king is gravely ill, and he doesn't have much time left. Because of that, the war for the throne has already started, all happening in the shadows. Not only that, he added, there are people with zero right to the throne who are scheming to take over this kingdom. August's hand clenched into a fist, his voice filled with rage. They're using illegal invaders and dragging innocent people into their twisted plots. As it all clicked into place, Jin remembered something. Got it. So it's not just that local dirtbag lord we need to worry about. His voice rang out, sharp and clear. Dangerous people like that are hiding out and operating right here in the capital. We need to find their base of operations. Fast. Jin finished his thought. And the most suspicious spot is Hannes Academy, right? He didn't deny it. Exactly. At that moment, August stopped in front of a door and knocked. I'm coming in. He opened the door while introducing Jin. She'll be your guide inside the academy. Inside the room, someone had been waiting for a while. Let me introduce you. This is my little sister, currently studying at Hannes, Milia Anton. August gestured with his hand to introduce her. Milia, this is... Suddenly, Milia shot up and cut him off. Brother. She glared daggers at them. Don't tell me you're actually planning to give that secret mission you mentioned. To this lowborn trash? He immediately snapped back at her. Milia, you're being incredibly rude. What's rude about it? Isn't the very existence of a lowborn like him the real insult here? She casually flicked her fan back and forth between the two of them. That woman who looks like a country bumpkin is one thing, but this job can't be handed to some mediocre commoner. Jin witnessed the whole thing and found it kinda amusing. What a prejudiced little princess. He almost felt sorry for her brother, August. I sincerely apologize. Please, don't pay any attention to her. Karina leaned in close to whisper to him. The young lady is talented, but she has a deep-seated hatred for anyone from the lower classes. Hearing that, Jin just gave his 2 cents. I get it. You're basically no different from her then. Just then, Milia flicked her fan open. Do you understand, brother? She laid out all her reasons. This isn't just some infiltration mission. He has to actually be a real instructor. Finally, Milia dropped the hammer. I refuse to believe a lowborn has what it takes to teach other people. Or does he actually have the necessary qualifications? Hakama chose that moment to totally sell him out. Jin can't even read. That truth made him cringe. Dude, Don't just say that. She immediately jumped on it. Read? Milia was completely disgusted by his level. Then he's a complete non-starter. This conversation is over. Suddenly, another voice cut in. It was the girl, speaking her mind with total sincerity. There are so many things that only Jin can teach. Jin is honestly more amazing than any of us. That shut her up. She carefully sized Jin up again. A moment later, Milia arrogantly brushed right past him. I guess he has enough brute force to keep the students in line, maybe? Before she left, her eyes were like ice as she warned him. But it takes a lot more than just brute strength to be a teacher. And with that, Milia slammed the door on her way out. Karina rubbed her tired head and spoke up first. About those students on the road. I had a feeling the young lady was the one behind them. August looked even more helpless. I'm so sorry. I promise I'll have a serious talk with her. Jin was cool about it and told him, I don't mind. He quickly changed the subject back to the mission. So, as an instructor, what exactly are you expecting me to teach? August answered right away. Spirit arts. He calmly laid out what he knew. Based on my assessment, you are an absolute master of spirit arts. Am I wrong? Jin was quiet for a second, then asked, what part of spirit arts should I be teaching? He replied instantly, just the basics is enough. August listed off the required spirit arts: ignition, discharge, freezing, and healing. If you can pull off even just 2 of those 4 basic techniques, then you're more than qualified. Model. He just dropped those words with a straight face, totally meant to piss me off. Just that? Is that all? And yeah, it worked. The guy just stared back like an idiot, asking, what the hell do you mean, just that? August couldn't believe it and pressed him. Don't tell me you can use those special spirit arts, the kind only a handful of freaks can pull off. Something about that phrase made Jin pause. Special spirit arts. After thinking it over, it clicked. Wait a sec. So that thief is actually considered, like, elite in this era? A smirk crept across Jin's face as he thought about it. Heh, interesting. And just like that, his mind was made up. All right, fine. I guess I'll just have to shake up the messed up standards of this era a little. In the blink of an eye, a new semester was about to kick off. A week flew by, and now Hannes Academy was buzzing with the chaos of the entrance exams. The place was packed with noisy applicants. Hakama was in the crowd, totally zoned in on her exam. A dude named Rudman came out to greet her and Jin with a big fake smile, leading them onto the campus. Well, we're so honored to have you personally escort us. The guy was laying it on thick, seeing Agus in his holy knight getup. I guess Unit 7 must be slammed. Don't sweat it, it's just our turn to handle the grunt work. Jin, who was listening from the back, thought that was weird. Our turn? A ghost didn't bother being sneaky, and just explained it to him. Once a year, the Holy Knights take turns picking one member to be a special instructor for this academy, and this year, Unit 7 drew the short straw. I get it. His words sent Jin into a spiral. Am I really cut out for this crap? He was seriously overthinking the whole thing. Rudman must have caught him spacing out because he turned back to look. He then led the 2 of them to a room and said, "This way." He opened the door and announced who was inside. The headmistress and the board of directors are waiting for you. Inside the room, the headmistress was giving them a seriously shady look. A ghost walked in and bowed respectfully. It's been a long time, headmistress. The headmistress cracked a small smile, sucking up to August. Ever since you graduated as the top student, you've shot up the ranks to become a famous knight pretty damn fast, huh? While those 2 were busy talking, Jin was just scanning the room, checking everything out. Thanks for agreeing to help us out. It's my responsibility. The headmistress leaned back in her chair, speaking in a totally unbothered tone. I've also heard a few rumors. August heard her veiled comment, but his face didn't change. That you're not just dealing with spirit art issues, but you're also caught up in internal faction drama. Her voice was calm, but it was a total threat. I understand you guys can't spare a lot of people, since everyone is so busy. The headmistress stared straight ahead, her eyes like daggers as she laid into them. Even so, that doesn't give you the right to be disrespectful in this academy. And, yeah, she was definitely talking about Jin, no doubt about it. Don't tell me you're letting this guy be an instructor here. The other 3 were giving Jin major stink eye. Seeing their crappy attitude, Jin just let out a tired sigh. You have nothing to worry about. A ghost bowed again, sticking up for Jin. His skills are way beyond anyone else in my Unit 7. Even he acknowledges Jin's talent, at least when it comes to actual combat skills. After a long, awkward silence, the headmistress finally made a decision. If you insist, then I'll take your word for it. For now. Just when the headmistress was getting a headache over this, some guy named Jita had to open his mouth. But what are we supposed to do about this? Headmistress, I am completely against this. He pointed right at Jin's face and started talking trash. In this sacred and historic academy, we've never, ever allowed a lower-class race to teach. The jerk thought he was all high and mighty, so of course he was fighting this. This position isn't a place for some lowlife. Are you trying to insult our academy? His words actually seemed to sway the headmistress a bit. She then turned to get Rudman's opinion. Jita has made his point. What about you, Rudman? What do you think? Rudman put on a big show of thinking before chiming in. Yeah, I agree with him. Most of our students come from noble families. He was acting like he was speaking for all the rich kids at the school. If you let some nobody teach them, you're guaranteed to get major pushback from the students, and even the other teachers. The headmistress looked pretty pleased after hearing all that. She even faked a helpless sigh to make her point. See, I basically feel the same way they do. But then she gave Jin an opening. But let's hear what he has to say for himself. Hearing that, Jin slowly stepped forward. He bowed respectfully to the headmistress and introduced himself. My apologies for the late introduction. I'm from Kodama Village. My name is Jin Sidhu. Seeing Jin's attitude, the headmistress was totally sizing him up. Even after being insulted so badly, he's acting weirdly calm. I completely understand your concerns, Jin shot back, his eyes sharp and full of confidence. However, I'd like to ask one small question. His question made Jita and Rudman freeze up. Am I not worthy of being an instructor just because I'm from a lower-class race? Even the headmistress leaned in to hear his question. Or is it because I don't actually have the skills to back it up? The headmistress tried to act all high and mighty, using fancy words to explain. Obviously, it's the latter. As long as you have the skills, nothing else matters. Then she threw down the challenge. So, can you prove you have what it takes? A ghost seized the opportunity and jumped in. If that's the case, why don't we have a little test? So everyone trooped out to the training grounds. At the Heinous Academy's Spirit Art training field, Jita stood across from Jin and started to explain. Since it's entrance exam day, there are barely any students around. The dude was acting all superior, pretending to reassure Jin. At least you'll avoid being humiliated in front of a crowd. Jin just watched him in silence, not even bothering with a reply. The headmistress stepped between the two of them and announced the rules of the test. The rules were stupid simple. They'd fight using only spirit arts. The headmistress played it off like a question, but she totally backed Jin into a corner. You're here to apply for the spirit arts instructor gig, right? Seeing your power firsthand is obviously the best way to judge you, isn't it? The students who saw what was happening couldn't help but get nosy. What's going on? Rumor was, a friendly match was about to go down. Hearing all that gossip, Melia couldn't stop herself from glancing over. I think this is the first time I've ever seen Sir Jita actually fight. Listening to their pointless chatter, Jin was cursing them out in his head. What a total waste of time. The headmistress and everyone else outside were glued to the scene. All right then, let's see what some dude from a lower-class race can actually do. Even Agus couldn't hide how hyped he was to watch Jin fight. This is the first time I get to see him go all out. He knew exactly what the physical limits of a low-tier race were. People from those races are usually pathetically weak. Even if they somehow had divine power, they could only ever unleash a tiny fraction of it. Knowing this, all Agus could do was pray for Jin. I just hope my decision wasn't a huge mistake. You ready? Jita asked, a nasty smirk on his face. Fine. Without wasting a second, he hurled a fireball right at Jin. I'll be the one to strike first. But Jin dodged Jita's move like it was nothing. The students watching from the sidelines were totally blown away. Jita glanced at the group of students, feeling even more smug. It wasn't a huge crowd, but hey, at least some kids were watching. He started building up his power again to get ready for another attack. Jita's lightning bolts shot straight forward, but no matter how strong the move was, Jin just casually jumped and dodged all of it. Jita threw everything he had at Jin, mocking him in his head. All you know how to do is run like a coward, huh? You're just low-class garbage. He was still way too confident in his own power. I might not have become a holy knight, but I graduated top of my class from this very academy. Jita wasn't about to let Jin off the hook, unleashing his ultimate move. You don't even have a prayer of being my opponent. Jin barely had time to breathe before he had to dodge another one of Jita's attacks. But no matter how slick Jita's move was, Jin avoided it easily. Seriously, I shouldn't have to use this power against a mere human. But at this point, Jin had lost all patience for dodging the guy's attacks. I have no other choice. He began to tap into his own source of power. Jita's taunts forced Jin to make a move. I'll show you all just a tiny piece of it. A massive sphere of power materialized right above Jita's head. The red orb slammed Jita straight into the ground. The headmistress and Rudman's eyes went wide with shock at what was happening. Even Agus was no exception. He couldn't hide the absolute surprise on his face. Melia was completely stunned when she saw Jin's technique. Jita was crushed flat on the ground, unable to get back up. I'm starting to have my doubts about this whole thing. What is this? What the hell just happened? Jin walked closer to him, step by step, and let out a sarcastic comment. I simply adjusted the gravity around you a little bit. Is that kind of spirit art something you've never even heard of? He flashed another wicked mocking smile. It seems I'll have a lot of things to teach here at this academy. Jin tightened his gloves and made an announcement to everyone present. Not just lessons for the students, but lessons for all of you too. Jita was pinned down by Jin, completely unable to move. He tried to force his head up, gritting his teeth as he glared at Jin. Jin just calmly snapped his fingers. After the snap, the orb crushing Jita immediately released him. Jita, still not getting the hint, kept running his mouth. Jin, what trick did you just pull? It was clearly spirit art, don't you know? Jita, embarrassed and angry, pointed a finger right in Jin's face and yelled, I've never heard of such a bizarre spirit art. You must have used some cheap parlor trick. Seeing him act like this, the headmistress and Roos were just helpless. It looked like the two of them were finally convinced of Jin's power. Looks like everything is over now. I guess so. The students outside who just witnessed the fight couldn't stop whispering. Milia had already figured out the ultimate move Jin used. There's no doubt about it, that was extremely high-level spirit art. Did you see that with your own eyes? What the heck was that terrifying thing anyway? She still couldn't believe it was real, constantly trying to rationalize it in her head. How is that even possible? Unlike us, who evolved under the protection of spirits, that low-class race isn't supposed to possess any divine power at all. Milia shot a murderous glare forward. All her attention was on Jin, her mind filled with doubt. So what is it then? Who is that guy, really? Please, calm down. Somewhere on campus, a powerful voice echoed. 1 week later, the headmistress stood at the podium addressing all her students. This academy doesn't just provide textbook knowledge. Its core mission is to train true warriors. People capable enough to wipe out the rot. Faced with her threat, some were confident, while others were terrified. Anyone who can't keep up with the educational pace will be mercilessly expelled from the academy. On top of that, the headmistress also made an enticing offer. However, for those who complete the program, joining the ranks of the Holy Knights will no longer be a distant dream. She stood there, stern and imposing, reminding everyone, every outcome depends on your own abilities. Milia's group, watching from up high, couldn't help but comment, we got a lot of new students this year, huh? That's right, it looks like a huge chunk of them are commoners. While Milia was lost in thought, someone called her name. The orange-haired student came over to talk to her. Milia, it's rare to see you at the entrance ceremony. I figured you were the type who never cared about other people. The two of them just stood there chatting. What about you? If there's some prestigious noble among the rookies, you'd want to suck up to them to save face, wouldn't you? Suddenly, the orange-haired guy looked panicked as he glanced down below. What is going on down there? His attention had landed on Jin, who was sitting in the back. Why is someone from a lower-class race sitting so comfortably in the section reserved for instructors? It's simple, because he's a professor. Milia could tell what the orange-haired guy was thinking just from his look, and decided to press him. What? From your point of view, what's your assessment of that man? That orange-haired punk stood there, totally flustered and just stuttering. Whatever. Milia was still putting on her high and mighty act, sizing Jin up. He's just some scrub from a low-tier race. Maybe she had a point. Down below, Jin was just scoping out the entire scene. His eyes scanned everything, his mind already plotting. This school is ridiculously huge. Investigating this place is going to take forever. Jin saw the other students giving him dirty looks and already had a target in mind. Still, all these glares are seriously annoying. First things first, I gotta ditch this inferior race tag they slapped on me. Even the instructor next to me seems freaked out to be sitting with Jin. If this keeps up, I'm gonna attract way too much unwanted attention. Forget the investigation, I'm becoming the most suspicious guy in the whole academy. And just like that, Jin had a plan. First, I need to get their so-called recognition. For now, everything at the academy was calm. Jita, up at the podium, started to introduce today's subject. All right, class, today we're starting our lesson on spirit arts. He sounded so damn confident in this group of students of his. To make sure you don't get owned by a bunch of newbies, you better stay on your toes. Not that you guys would care, since you're the so-called elite class. But then Jita cracked a smug grin and said, yeah, that's exactly what I'm trying to teach. When he saw only a few students in the class, he flew off the handle and started chewing them out. What the hell is going on here? Why is the attendance so pathetic today? Huh? Are all of you just lacking motivation? Milia, sitting up front, just sighed. She knew exactly what was up. I mean, it's totally obvious. Jita was secretly pleased with himself. Who in their right mind would want to listen to a lecture from some low-tier trash? He was the reason all the students were missing today. I made sure to spread the news everywhere that some low-class nobody would be teaching today. Jita put on a fake, cheerful smile and invited Jin up to lecture. Man, this is such a drag. All right then, let's get this over with. Mr. Jin, please introduce yourself. Jin didn't hesitate at all, stepping up in front of everyone. I'll begin my introduction. My name is Jin. Hearing him, the students below did not look happy. I've been assigned here to instruct you on the fundamentals of spirit arts for the time being. It's a pleasure to meet you all. That orange-haired kid crossed his arms and questioned Jin. You really think you're qualified enough to do this? Jin noticed his attitude, but just replied calmly, that's for you guys to decide for yourselves. Jin didn't even get mad. Instead, he made an offer. If you feel what I teach is worthless, you're completely free to ditch my class. His face suddenly turned dark as he warned them. But there's one mandatory rule you have to remember. Jin looked at the power in his own hand as he reminded everyone, you are absolutely never to use this power to harm people. He began to teach them everything that he knew. The essence of spirit arts is the ability to nullify the super regeneration of the corrupted. Jin used specific examples to teach the students. However, this suppression effect is totally useless on human bodies. You'll just end up causing them simple physical wounds. You guys know why that is? Jin's expression was dead serious as he clenched his fist and declared, because this power was created with the sole purpose of destroying the corrupted. His intense pressure even made Milia a little wary. Therefore, I demand that you are not allowed to abuse this power. A kid in the class burst out laughing and shot back a sarcastic comment. Are you an idiot? Power is just power. The gray-haired punk from earlier shot him a defiant look, intentionally dissing Jin. I was curious to see what a low tier could even teach, and you're telling us not to use spirit arts? His words made everyone in the class burst out laughing. You're probably just scared of us, only because you're a powerless nobody from that inferior race, right? Just like that, everyone in the class started whispering and mocking him, not caring that Jin was right there. Seeing their attitude, Jin wasn't surprised at all. He just sighed softly and spoke up. If you think I have no real power, then try and prove it. This time, it was Jin's turn to provoke the gray-haired student. What? Use the strongest move you've got and attack me! Jin even threw down a bet, challenging him. If you can give me even a single scratch, I promise I'll disappear from this place and never come back. Hearing that, the gray-haired student laughed his head off. He didn't hold back at all, instantly unleashing his power. Don't come crying to me when you regret this. Don't wait till it's too late to back down, you low-tier scum. Jita saw that power and could only clutch his head, screaming at the kid. Hey, you moron, stop it right now. Are you trying to hit me too? That gray-haired punk unleashed his power, attacking Jin. Eat this. A massive wave of energy shot toward Jin's position like an arrow. The blast hit right where Jin was standing, creating a huge shockwave. The gray-haired dude was still looking smug, waiting for the result. Suddenly, a small dagger shot out from within the cloud of smoke. The knife whizzed right past the gray-haired kid above. It slammed straight into the wall, shattering a huge chunk of it right behind him. Jin slowly emerged from the smoke, his voice cutting through. If I had been serious, you would have been dead after that last attack. That was the real lesson he wanted to teach that gray-haired punk. Judging someone just by their appearance is a fatal mistake. The orange-haired student who witnessed it was still frozen, his mind completely blown. What the hell was that just now? Was that even spirit arts? The students were now all looking at Jin's power with fear. Just then, he spoke up. You believed I was weak just because I come from an inferior race, right? But the truth is, I'm much stronger than you. Jin declared it with an imposing and dignified air. So, what do you think you should call me now? Let me give you the answer. That last attack was just a lesson to put everyone in their place. Right then, he was also declaring himself their professor. Jin gave a slight smirk and then really emphasized his point. Do any of you here actually understand the conditions needed to activate spirit arts? He looked down at everyone below and then said pointedly, You, the one who just attacked me, answer my question. The kid stood up, looking flustered and anxious. Well, it's just based on your own imagination, isn't it? He starts casting a spell, breaking it down like it's nothing. So, mages gotta focus their power, then zap a mental pick to the spirits to make stuff happen. Like, isn't that Magic 101? Hearing that lame answer, Jane cracks a smirk. Sure, imagination's a big deal, but it's totally not the main key to unlocking your power. He barely finishes his sentence before summoning energy into his palm. Spirits only go full power when they catch a specific wavelength. The student just stares, totally floored by this. Wavelengths? Seriously? Jane keeps going. Basically, there are like 8 main types. He demos it for them. Real slow. Incinerate. Then, his other hand sparks with a second power. Discharge. Next up, he summons a third energy. Healing. And just like that, the final one, freeze. This is all stuff you guys should already have on lockdown. The student's jaws just hit the floor. But Jane isn't done yet. On top of all that, he calls forth another power. The ability to mess with gravity. His other hand glows with a brilliant magic, controlling light, manipulating air pressure, and the power I just showed off. After running through the list, Jane drops the mic, saying it's all about spatial protection. Seeing him use all these basic principles, I'm just blown away, thinking, asterisk, you can really master all 8 types of spirit arts? No way. Asterisk. Jane looks at the magic in his hands, all smug, just like when he zapped me with that lightning spear earlier. Visualization is a must. He pauses for a sec, then a small smile hits his lips. Now Jane just crosses his arms, super chill. So, can we start the real lecture now? Time flies by until class is over. Jane strolls down the hall by himself, lost in thought. Asterisk. All right, guess it's come to this. I need to start digging around this massive academy. Asterisk. Just then, some students standing around start whispering, "That professor!" Jane's eyes flick over, catching their vibe. Everywhere I look, it's just students crawling all over the place. I still haven't found anything that looks sketchy. Then he spots Melia nearby, and an idea clicks in his head. Asterisk. Maybe I should check out the restricted areas. Places where students aren't allowed? Asterisk. His gaze hardens as he side-eyes her. It's like her sixth sense is tingling, making Melia look right back at him. Jane plays it cool and just walks by, but Melia calls him out. Hey, you. What's your deal, anyway? He glances back, his voice dripping with sarcasm. Turns out you're not just some low-tier nobody, huh? She snaps back, totally pissed. You're definitely not some average Joe, I'll give you that. After saying it, Melia looks super bummed out. Someone from the lower ranks should never be able to use all the spirit arts. Hearing this, Jane looks confused. Dude, I literally just explained this in class. If you can just separate the wavelengths, anyone can do it. Melia sighs, totally over it. Don't act like it's that simple. She glances over, overhearing some other students whispering, he can use all the spirit arts? For real? Hearing that, Melia just scoffs and says, if it was that easy, you wouldn't be making such a huge scene right now. Then she turns to leave. Let's go talk somewhere else. Before long, they end up in some deserted spot. Literally no one else is around. Melia suddenly spins around. So, ready to answer my question now? Jean's totally chill. Simple. For the last 100 million years, I was some ancient dude, passed out in Kodama village. She starts walking again, rolling her eyes. Yeah, right, you're a real comedian. Then Melia stops, her voice dead serious. Fine, let me ask you this then. What were you doing 100 million years ago? That weird question actually makes Jane pause. A lot of stuff happened. Back then, I was a secret agent. Melia's brow furrows. A secret agent? What's that? He just smiles and explains, someone who works for the country. I fought more villains than I can even count. Jane thinks back, his mind a bit fuzzy, even though it was 100 million years ago. He remembers watching everyone plan their strategies, remembers the attack that happened at night, and he feels a rush of emotion. But I can still remember it all, clear as day. Thinking back, Jane lets out a nostalgic laugh. Man, talk about a throwback. Melia's still not buying it. I'm just wondering why a guy like you ended up taking a 100 million year nap. He answers, straight up, because I failed. Jane starts to explain how he used to think he could handle everything on his own. If I just tried hard enough, he says, really stressing the point. And the price for that was losing everything, completely helpless. I took this teaching job hoping that you all would have my back if things get tough. Hearing that, she wonders just how much of his story is actually true. After spilling his guts, Jane looks around, confused. By the way, where are we even going? She just walks ahead, all casual. Whatever. I guess I should at least do my job as a guide. A little later, Melia leads him to some busted old room, covered in dust and cobwebs. We're here. Jane steps inside, looking a little suspicious. Where exactly is this? Melia explains bluntly. This is where instructors keep their class materials. He strokes his chin, thinking. Asterisk. So it's just a storage closet? Asterisk. Jane starts looking around the place. Suddenly, he spots an owl statue on a bookshelf. The moment he sees it, Jane's eyes narrow. He can feel something's off. He immediately whips around to face Melia. Why'd you bring me here? She pulls out a stack of papers. It means I'm doing my own investigation. Melia points out that there's a really weird empty space right next to this room. It's big enough to be a whole other room. Jane reaches out and touches the statue. Seeing him do it, she asks, super suspicious, right? If there's a secret, it's gotta be right here. He's quiet for a second before answering, I get it. The second he touches that statue, a secret passage slides open. Seeing that sketchy hallway, Jane knew his guess totally nailed it. Melia pointed, all confused. How the hell did you figure that out? He answered like it was nothing. The whole area is coated in a thick layer of dust, Jane said, pointing straight at the wall with the owl carving, totally certain. But this one spot is weirdly clean. The rest was just a gut feeling from, doing this a lot. Then he just walked straight into the passage. I'm gonna check it out. You should probably wait out here. Hearing that, Melia freaked out. Wait a sec, I'm going with you. Jane stopped dead in his tracks and gave it to her straight. If something's in there, it's probably one of the corrupted. This is gonna be a total death wish. You get that, right? She narrowed her eyes. not backing down. Please, don't look down on me. Amelia puffed out her chest, full of confidence. Whatever. My scores are at the top of my class this year, you know. Plus, I've got skills that are just as good as my brother's. Hearing that, he gave a small smirk and a nod. All right, fine. I'll take your word for it. Just like that, Jane took the lead, with Amelia following close behind. As they walked, Jane could feel the path leading them deep, deep underground. Amelia thought to herself that his light control technique was seriously convenient. After they'd walked a bit further, Jane suddenly spoke up. If this was some fantasy story, I'd say a monster is about to jump out right about now. Hearing that, Amelia suddenly froze. Then, she decided to ask him something. By the way, circling back to our earlier conversation, how, since you've been fighting these psychos for so long, have you got any leads on a suspect? Jane cracked a forced smile. You ask way too many questions for one workday. He let out a quiet sigh, the image of Rudman flashing in his mind. Asterisk. It's possible Mr. Rudman is mixed up in this. Asterisk. Amelia was stunned. How would you know that? Jane laid out his reasoning. He acts super calm when he's talking, but the moment he's not, it's like his mind is a million miles away. That's a classic sign of someone being forced to do something they don't want to do. He remembered everything and spelled it out. He was also ridiculously on guard, but I just played dumb, pretending I didn't notice a thing. After hearing that, Amelia frowned, thinking back. Before, I thought Professor Jita was the sketchy one, but Jane just smirked and said that was impossible for a lecturer like him. He thought back to Jita's face and figured all his emotions were written all over it, plain as day. Because of that, he's got to be a genuinely good guy, without a single scheme in his head. With that, he looked down the path ahead. All right, let's keep moving. Suddenly, they were hit with a scene of swirling white dust. Amelia walked and looked up, amazed. It's hard to believe there's a space this massive under the academy. As she was walking, Jane stopped short. What is this? Seeing his reaction, Amelia got a little scared too. What's wrong? He was shocked, saying out loud he never thought it would be in a place like this. Jane stared at the solid gate in front of them and thought, asterisk, the gate to the lab that Kagura left everywhere. Asterisk. Jane looked up at the massive door standing in his way and thought with a sense of awe. Asterisk. This is it. The lab Kagura left behind. Asterisk. He stared intently at the faint blue light covering the door, his mind racing with possibilities. Asterisk. This door is protected by nanoparticles. Asterisk. Definitely. At the same time, Amelia stared, stunned at the giant door, her disbelief obvious. A gate this huge is really underneath the academy? She took a small step closer to Jane and asked in a low voice, You think we can get inside? He reached out and lightly touched the door, answering calmly, Basically, you need an access key to get in. Amelia just looked at him blankly. An access key? Jane kept scanning their surroundings, his voice even. Just think of it as a master key to open this door. With that, he rested his hand on his chin, lost in thought. Memories suddenly flooded Jane's mind. The light from the small key around Hakama's neck flashed in his memory. He analyzed it carefully. Back in Kodama village, Hakama was the one who inherited the key. It's totally possible someone here inherited one just like it. Jane frowned slightly. If that's the case, then, he didn't even finish his sentence before a faint light started glowing from his hand. Jane placed his hand on the solid steel door. A moment later, a system's voice echoed in the quiet space, confirming highest-level access authority. Jane started to unlock the door. In an instant, the massive gate slowly swung open, a blast of icy cold air rushing out. Jane stood calmly, waiting for it to open completely, and let out a soft sigh. Asterisk. The person trying to throw this nation into chaos. Asterisk. He led Amelia inside. Right in front of them was a giant monster, locked inside an iron cage. Jane's voice was grim. Is the one holding the access key. The second Amelia saw it, she stumbled back in fear, her voice shaking. This horrifying thing is right under the academy? She turned to Jane, her eyes filled with suspicion. But how did you manage to open the door? Didn't you just say you needed an access key? Jane just kept walking forward casually, answering her calmly. The ancients were special. Amelia watched him go, a million questions racing through her mind. Asterisk, ancients? Asterisk, she frowned, trying to figure it out. Asterisk. Is he seriously a person from 100 million years ago? Asterisk. Jane didn't seem to care what Amelia was thinking. He just walked slowly, checking out each monster locked away in its iron cage. Suddenly, Jane stopped and let out a sigh. This is weird. He frowned a little, completely puzzled. Why would they let themselves get caught so tamely? Jane glanced at the other monsters, thinking quietly. Even the other corrupted are like this. None of them are showing any sign that they want to attack. He suddenly remembered the monster he'd seen before. Thinking back, That corrupted monster the bandits had was just as quiet when it was in its cage. Jane was lost in thought. And the most important thing is, he looked quietly at the giant monster before him, his mind filled with questions. A corrupted this huge. How did they even manage to get it in here? At that moment, Melia, fanning her face with her hand, suddenly spoke up. Looks like my brother's suspicion that something was messed up with this academy was spot on. She frowned, lowering her voice as she plotted. If we set up an ambush here, the mastermind behind all this will definitely show their face. Right then, Jane cut her off. Don't. He glanced at Millian and was like, before we do anything, we gotta lock down this entire academy and wipe out all these corrupted freaks. Hearing that, Millian totally lost it and screamed, are you telling me to just let that criminal get away? Jin shot back, but you could tell he was hesitating a little. Look, I get how you feel, but what if these corrupted monsters suddenly go berserk? His voice got low, the words hitting Millian right where it hurts. The ones in danger would be the students. The ones right above our heads. Jin basically painted a picture of students laughing on campus, calmly reminding her that her own brother would put everyone's safety way above catching one bad guy. Hearing that, Millian finally started to chill out, mumbling, you have a point. Jin gave a slight nod and added, besides, I've got a really bad feeling about this. His voice dropped an octave. My gut is almost never wrong about this stuff. I want to check out this lab a bit more. Jin looked over at Millian, his tone softening like he was asking a huge favor. Contact August and lock down the academy for me. Can I trust you with this? Millian didn't even hesitate and nodded. The second he got his answer, he turned on his heel and walked off, sighing to himself, all right then. Jin quietly looked up at the fancy clock on the wall, then pushed deeper into the lab, his mind racing. With the way things are now, I just hope I can find some kind of clue. All the while, the tick-tock of the clock echoed coldly through the empty space. Back at the school, Ja was strolling around while everyone around him was whispering. He clenched his fists, glaring daggers at the students pointing at him. Dude, I heard the new professor totally wrecked him. Ugh, how pathetic. Ja gritted his teeth, pure rage boiling up inside him. It's all because of that low-class trash that my reputation is completely ruined. He was fuming. Him? Control 8 types of spirit magic? Seriously? He's got to be pulling some kind of scam. Ja stomped his foot like a child, screaming in his head, I swear I'll be the one to expose him. Just then, a steady voice called out from behind him, Mr. Ja. The stern headmistress stared him down, her voice low. The students are starting to get freaked out, so could you please stop acting so weird? Ja jumped when he saw her. Headmistress. The headmistress sighed, her voice dripping with sarcasm. Oh, don't get me wrong. I'm not here to judge your personal hobbies, but he was just stunned. She thinks this is just some game to me? Suddenly, her voice got sharp. By the way, have you seen Mr. Rudman anywhere? Ja hesitated. You mean, Rudman? He rubbed his chin, thinking, now that you mention it, I haven't seen Mr. Rudman at all since the entrance ceremony today. Before he could even finish, the headmistress let out a long, annoyed sigh. This is such a pain. She put her head in her hands, totally bummed. I needed to ask his opinion about the classes for the new students. Then, she suddenly froze, her eyes shooting upwards. What is that? She stared at the dark clouds gathering in the sky, her voice shaky. What in the world is that thing? Elsewhere, Millian was scrambling out of the deep underground cellar. She burst through the heavy cellar door and out into the hallway above. Stopping for a second, Millian clutched her chest, trying to catch her breath and get her energy back. She told herself she had to tell her brother about this, and fast. But right then, a cold, sharp voice cut her off. Report about what, exactly? The second she heard that voice, all the color drained from her face. She was trembling, totally speechless. Roman was standing in the middle of the room like he'd been waiting for her the whole time, his voice a low threat. Miss Wan! She stared at the twisted smile on his face and let out a terrified scream. Meanwhile, with Jin, another heavy steel door creaked open, revealing a blazing red light on the other side. Jin's mind screamed, what the hell is this? He was completely stunned, staring into the room as the red glow washed over his face. In front of him was a pulsing red sphere of energy, sucking in everything around it. He immediately started analyzing. It's beating, like the heart of a living creature. Jin stared at the control panel, totally skeptical. Don't tell me Kagura made all this? He glanced around, and his eyes locked onto a mysterious box sitting on a table. Jin reached out and opened it. Inside was a cube and some weird liquid. He thought to himself, a communication system and a nanoparticle injection, left behind by Kagura. Jin booted up the cube-shaped device, hoping like hell that Kagura left some kind of clue to explain what the heck was going on. As soon as it turned on, a glitchy voice came through. An image of Kagura appeared, his familiar voice filling the room. Can you hear me, Jin? Looks like you finally made it here. Kagura's voice was calm. I figured you would, since this spot is the closest to the lab where you first woke up. Then he leaned forward, his voice dropping low. That's right. In this very lab, we built something absolutely incredible. Jin's eyes shifted to the weird liquid as Kagura's voice continued, and a part of that device's function was sealed inside those nanoparticles. He pushed up his glasses, his voice full of smug pride. Seriously, I'm a freaking genius. So, what do you think it is? Kagura's voice was hyped. It's a tool for teleportation. Hearing that, Jin was totally floored. He stammered, Teleportation? In that instant, the image of that giant monster flashed in his mind again. Jin stared at the pulsing red thing in the middle of the room, unable to hide his shock. It was insane. The giant monster stood silently in its iron cage, with tons of smaller monsters locked up around it. The clock hands kept moving. Tick-tock. The giant clock showed time spinning on, while that creepy, red time machine gave off a terrifying vibe that made your skin crawl. Jin frowned, his mind racing. A machine that can teleport through space? He imagined its insane power using an apple as an example. It could literally connect two separate points in space. This was tech that shouldn't have been possible even 100 million years ago. If this was for real, then all the weird stuff happening lately, like what Agus said about corrupted beings suddenly popping up in the capital, was starting to connect. Jin's brain finally clicked. That freaky machine. Was it the one that zapped all those things here? He stroked his chin, thinking about those messed up freaks in the main hall too. On screen, Kagura kept on yapping. And this thing right here, he points to the machine he built, is the so-called spatial teleporter. Jin just stares, totally shocked. Man, this looks way different. He looks up, comparing the sleek light blue machine on the screen with this nasty blood-red thing in front of him. So for real, what the hell is this thing exactly? Time was ticking. The red machine suddenly flared up, bathing everything in a sick glow that made even Jin hesitate. That same light zapped the giant beast in the cage. It woke up, totally juiced, and in a flash, the light teleported the beast somewhere else. Over at the capital, Milia came tearing in. Yo, Agus, we got a major situation in the capital. Agus looked up at the sky, his face grim. Yeah, I see it. His brow furrowed. For real, monsters were just raining from the sky, like tons of them. This was the absolute worst-case scenario, but Rudman just played dumb. What's going on? Why the long face? He asked, but his eyes were pure evil. My lady. Milia backed off, ready to throw down. Get out of my way. You're behind this, aren't you? Rudman's voice was way too chill. Oh, so you've already pieced it together? Looks like you've been doing some snooping, huh? He smirked. Too bad you're a step behind. Milia scowled. What are you talking about? Rudman finally dropped the nice guy act. Today's the day it all goes down. That's what I'm talking about. He sighed like he was so annoyed. Honestly, the plan was for a little later, but since some pest was sniffing around, I had to move up the schedule. Rudman's eyes lit up when he said it. He was talking about Jin. That guy is going to be a major pain in the neck for my plan. And right on cue, Jin was booking it to the scene. I can just feel it. That guy is just as annoying as your brother, you know. Rudman pointed to the passage behind Milia. Matter of fact, he's already found that little secret entrance. He started creeping closer to her. He's right down here as we speak. You get it, right? I'm dying to just rip out these problems by the roots. Like, right now. Milia gave a small laugh as her magic started to swirl. You seriously think you can take me down? Rudman sneered, totally looking down on her. Oh, I know I can, because He was getting all worked up. I have gotten my hands on a power that's totally unstoppable. He didn't even see Hakama sneaking up behind him with a huge vase, ready to clock him. Milia saw the whole thing, but she kept her mouth shut, just holding her breath while Rudman kept running his mouth. And I'm going to show you just how awesome it is. Just as his magic started to pour out, this is my new power. Hakama was right there. Then came a massive crash. A little smirk played on Milia's lips. Hakama let out a sigh of relief. The girl smiled. We won. Milia was confused. Why are you even here? Hakama answered. I was looking for Jin. She quickly explained. Everything outside is a total disaster. We really need Jin's help. Hakama glanced at the person behind her. Kudo here said she saw Jin come this way. Milia hesitated, checking her out. You're a first year, aren't you? Kudo got all flustered and bowed. Yes, ma'am. I'm Kudo Plaza. She nervously hid behind Hakama. Hey, Hakama, are we gonna be in trouble for this? You just, attacked a teacher. Hakama's voice was super chill. It's not a big deal, she pointed, explaining. He never even saw our faces. We can just pin it all on Miss Princess over here. Milia gritted her teeth. Asterisk, this brat. Don't call me Miss Princess. Asterisk. Footsteps were getting closer, and Hakama whipped her head around. Jin had finally shown up. Hakama yelled, "Jin!" He looked around, totally lost. What did I miss? Hakama grabbed his sleeve. "Jin, things are getting real bad out there." Jin looked down and nodded. "I know." His face was dead serious. "Those corrupted things we had locked up in the lab, they're all gone." Melia's face went pale when she realized what that meant, and they all booked it outside. The scene below the city walls was total chaos. Fires were spreading, monsters were attacking people, and everyone was running for their lives. Some of the monsters could even fly, picking people off easy. Every step they took made the ground shake like crazy. The main monster was huge and ripped, with these long, octopus-like tentacles around its face. It let out a roar that echoed everywhere. Melia covered her mouth, horrified. Is the whole capital in danger?" Jin gritted his teeth. "I messed up. I should have just wrecked that machine from the get-go." Hakama pointed frantically. "Jin, look up there!" The huge monster was still roaring its head off, charging up a massive magic ball in its mouth. "It's aimed right at the capital," Kudo guessed, totally freaked out. "That huge thing. I think it's aiming right for the royal castle." Melia was worried. "If this keeps up, the royal family is toast." Jin pulled out a syringe. "This is all on me. I'm gonna finish this." He slammed the syringe into his arm, and a rush of power surged through his veins. This latest power-up came with a new function, a simplified space jump. Jin remembered what Kagura said. Thanks to the energy stored in the nanoparticles, he could only use it once a day. The range was pretty limited, too. Only for short distances you can actually see. Right then, the monster launched that giant energy ball. The blast of magic shot straight for the castle, and in that same instant, Jin warped to another spot. He didn't even flinch, popping up right in front of the attack. He threw up a magic shield to block it, proving he could appear wherever he wanted in a split second.